What's going on, guys, and welcome back to AskGSM here today for Wednesday, January 14th, 2025, episode 581. Here today, I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and can hear me all right here as we go live for the second straight week in 2025 for AskGSM. If you haven't already, check out the other live streams from the last week here on the channel, Wrestle Rant Radio with myself and Mr. Marceau. We'll go live again this coming Thursday, but last week talking about the Rock Dilemma in WWE, what's his role at WrestleMania, and so much more, reviewing Raw on Netflix. I also went live a couple days back on Saturday reviewing SmackDown from Friday night. Not the most exciting episode to talk about, but we had a fun time talking SmackDown on Saturday. We're not doing a full-on Raw review here today. But of course, in some of the questions I will be answering that you guys sent in from X, Twitter, whatever, Facebook, and YouTube in the last couple of days, including from last night, we will be talking about Raw from last night, which I thought was a significant upgrade, not even over SmackDown on Friday, which was a pretty... You missed nothing if you missed the show. You really didn't miss much. But really, even over Raw, I thought the Raw Netflix debut I enjoyed for what it was. I thought last night's follow-up second edition of Raw on Netflix was remotely better, like significantly better. They had a great Penta debut, a fun street fight main event. There was also the Women's Intercontinental Championship final. More men announced for the Men's Royal Rumble matchup. They announced 2 championship matches for Saturday night's main event coming up next weekend. Or is it next weekend? I think it is January 20, whatever it is, the 24th, 23rd, whatever. So a lot to talk about here today. If you guys want to send in a question, please do so either in the chat. I may not get to it right away. I might answer some of the other questions first. If you want your question guaranteed to be answered here on the show, the chat's a nice way to do that. But also, send in your question in advance on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. You could tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. I try to put up the questions now. I'm still kind of getting used to putting up the questions. Before Raw on Mondays, it's weird because we've been doing it on Tuesdays for almost a decade. Now to go to transferring the show from Wednesdays to Tuesdays is still kind of throwing me off a little bit. But if you want to get your question on the show, you can tweet me on the Twitter machine, like I said, at WrestleRant. Almost said at hashtag AskGSM. It's at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Send it in before Raw, after Raw, now. Doesn't matter. Even on Tuesday mornings before we go live, I can answer it here on the show or in the chat, like I said. On Facebook as well, I try to put the chat up or the post up that you can put your comments up with the questions and whatnot over at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a question, a comment on the post that I usually put up on, I almost said Tuesday nights. Again, I got to get out of that habit. Now it's Monday nights. On Monday nights over on the Facebook page, check that out. Check out the post. Leave a comment there. I'll include your question from Facebook here in the video. And last but certainly not least, on this very video in the comment section down below, include your question, and I'll be sure to answer it here on the show a week later. So as we get going here, I'll pull up the questions in a moment. I think we're good to go. But if you are tuning in live, first of all, I appreciate you. Be sure to drop a like on the video. I would appreciate that. Whether you're watching live after the fact, be sure to chat in if you got a question, or if you're just here listening, that's awesome too. Now, a lot of questions to get through, even more from last week, more than last week, rather, including from Jordan B. from YouTube. His question was, which wrestlers do you feel get too much hate online? I think The Miz gets too much hate. It's a good question. The Miz is definitely one of them, and The Miz has been one of those guys for a very long time now. Miz has been one of those guys that has been getting... it's been cool to hate The Miz online. In some periods, it was cool to like The Miz, like right after the Talking Smack promo back in 2016 when he was on the rise a little bit in 2017, 2018. And then when he went right back to doing what he was doing before, which was a whole lot of nothing, really. I mean, unless he's doing cringy content like the whole "my balls are bigger than yours" Logan Paul, the feud itself sucked. The match was a lot of fun at SummerSlam 2022, but the feud itself was awful. I still see people like groan at The Miz, and he's a WWE version, a watered down version of MJF, and obviously Miz came well before MJF, who was probably still in high school at the time that The Miz was breaking into WWE. MJF is definitely better than Miz, and we're not talking about comparing the two. But just in terms of someone who gets a lot of hate online, Miz is one of those guys. I feel like now it's amplified, honestly, for everyone. Like, I see a lot of, not disdain, but negativity online towards people like Cody Rhodes. Rhea Ripley's another one. For as passionate as her fan base is, she also gets an equal, I don't know about an equal, but also a lot of negativity from specifically the Liv Morgan fans. who will also get hate online as well. And Liv Morgan at one point in time wasn't the best women's wrestler in the roster. She still isn't, but she's improved a lot. She's become much more of a star. It was her year last year alongside Nia Jax, two of the most unlikely candidates to really break out and have a great year. 2024 was the year of Liv Morgan and Nia Jax in WWE, at least on the main roster. And they had two very good runs. And it's funny because all the women who had held championships for a long time, in 2024, Liv Morgan was champion for 8 months. Nia Jax was champion for 5 months. Roxanne Perez had been champion for 9 months, I think, since WrestleMania weekend last year in April. And all three of them dropped their championships in the span of, I think, 4 days. Tiffany first beat Nia for the belt, and then Rhea beat Liv on last Monday's Raw, and then Roxanne Perez lost the NXT Women's Championship the subsequent night, the next night on NXT New Year's Evil, to Julia. So we have all new champions across the board with the women in WWE. But yeah, I think Miz is definitely one of those guys. Cody Rhodes, I see a lot of negativity towards, oh, he's boring, he's not the guy, which I think it's going to be amplified towards anyone that is the guy in WWE. Roman Reigns was that guy for a long time, and honestly, rightfully so, because his booking was fucking awful. And it really shouldn't be towards the person themselves, unless they deserve it, if that makes sense. So, like, not recently, because the guy's just irrelevant, but people like Alberto Del Rio. If you see him get hated online, it's probably justified. He seems like a piece of shit. Hulk Hogan seems like a piece of shit for a lot of obvious reasons, which we'll actually get to a little bit later on. Someone asked me why I think Hulk Hogan got booed last Monday on Raw. I'll tell you, which I think we probably discussed last week here on the show. I know we talked about it with Mr. Marceau briefly here on, not here on Wrestle Rant Radio, but here on the stream last Thursday. But yeah, people like that deserve the hate that they get online. But like the Cody Rhodeses of the world, Rhea Ripley, Roman Reigns was one of those guys for a long time, like I said. I feel like another one was Nia Jax, and I feel like, I don't know if she gets too much hate online at this point. Everyone gets a little bit amount of hate. If you're in WWE or AEW and you're on a big stage, there's bound to be some backlash there. But like people who, they go after specific people because it's cool to not like those people. The elite were like that for a long time. Some of that's now justified. CM Punk's another one. I don't know if it gets too much hate. I wouldn't really say that. I feel like the love for Punk kind of outweighs the hate that people have for him, and the hate that people have for him is also justified in some respects. I'm just trying to think of AEW as well. If there's anyone in AEW that gets like too much go away heat from people on Twitter specifically. Like, I think the other social media platforms also have their equal amount of hate and whatnot. But specifically Twitter is what I see, so that's what I'm going off of. Miz would be chief among them. Like 10 years ago, even today, a lot of people shit on The Miz. Unjustifiably so. He's proven his spot. He's very good. He can excel in any spot you put him in. The booking is atrocious, but that's just kind of what happens when you're there for 20 years and you really have done it all and there's really not much more to do. Mike does it from YouTube. His first question was, I was hoping Drew McIntyre was going to take the loss against Jey Uso last week on Raw, he means, and put Travis Scott through a table and take the Hardcore Championship and make the belt a part of the WWE titles that you can win. What do you think WWE will be doing with that championship now that Travis Scott has it, or is it just a prop? I'm going to be honest with you, Micah. First of all, you sent in a couple super chats a couple days ago. Thank you so much again for that, and just all the love and support and watching all the videos. I appreciate it. I honestly, Micah, have no idea what you're talking about. Did Travis Scott come out with a Hardcore Championship belt last week? I don't remember that at all. He probably did. I mean, you're getting that from somewhere. I just specifically did not see that, or was at least not paying attention. I saw that he had a fucking blunt in his mouth. I saw that he was smoking a blunt during the entrance with Jey Uso. I saw that. I didn't see a championship. So no, if there's a Hardcore Championship, if you're talking about bringing back the Hardcore belt from like the 90s or the early 2000s, absolutely not. They kind of tried it with the 24/7 Championship. It was a cool concept at first. I know that was a Vince McMahon run WWE. Even in today's WWE, we have too many titles, not enough. We do not need another Hardcore Championship. It was perfect for the time. Today, nowadays, no, I just feel like that would get old very quickly. And even the Hardcore Championship was only around for a couple of years. I don't know if the 24/7 Championship outlived that. I know the Hardcore Championship went away in 2002. When was it introduced? 98, 99? The 24/7 Championship might have been around longer, but I'd have to check on that. Regardless, that is absolutely not a championship that they should be using. That would be just, I think that'd be stupid. I think it'd be very dumb to incorporate that as a regular part of the show. The Hardcore Championship, I just feel like that'd be silly. So, absolutely not. Your second question, do you think Vince still watches the current WWE product still? And if he could change some things, what do you think he would change first? So obviously, I put this as the headline question for the episode here today. Does Vince McMahon still watch WWE? No. I mean, I can't prove that, but I'm going to tell you what I think. I don't think he would watch the product. Why the fuck would he? I mean, yes, he grew up on it. Honestly, I feel like, and not even the lawsuit stuff. I know we didn't talk about it on the show last week. It may have happened after the fact. I feel like he put up that tweet on Friday. I forget the timeline. If he put it up before we spoke on Thursday, Mr. Marceau and I, then I just completely missed it by accident. But Vince put up a tweet last week saying the case is closed, and some people thought that to mean, oh yeah, Janelle Grant settled and that whole thing's over. It's fucking not. It's still an ongoing investigation, lawsuit, pending a lot of different legal stuff. That is not the case that he was referring to. He did that on purpose to make you think that's what he was referring to. There's a lot of dumb wrestling fans out there, a lot of dumb people in general that probably just automatically assume, oh yeah, he was always innocent. He's not, first of all. That was in regards to the SEC case with the hush money, and if he was, if it involved WWE and not like filing certain amounts and whatever. He got a fine for it, like a slap on the wrist. It really didn't mean anything, but it had nothing to do with the Janelle Grant stuff. I mean, it did to a certain extent as far as the hush money stuff is concerned, I think. But as far as ending that case and their investigative look into him, so to speak, it didn't. So that's still ongoing. My point is, between that and just, he seems like the type of guy, and we were, like, honestly, like, I was legitimately wondering when he first left WWE back in 2022, what the fuck does this guy do? Like, I want a documentary on Vince, which we got on Netflix, 4 months ago, and it was very good, I thought. I want a documentary on Vince about what he's doing in his off time. I mean, honestly, maybe that's a bad question to ask. Maybe we don't want to know. But, like, honestly, what does he do? Does he go golf or something? Like, at this point, I don't really feel like, even though he's retired from WWE and he's removed from the product and he sold all of his stock and whatnot, he's always doing something. I feel like he's the type of guy, even at 77, 78, however the fuck old he is now, he always has to be doing something. And to a certain degree, I can relate to that. But, like, at this point, you're hopefully in your final years. I hate to say it, but it's true. I mean, he's just not a good person. And he's retired from WWE, his life's work, a forced retirement, mind you, a second forced retirement. And even the first one wasn't really a retirement because he was never really fully gone. But now he's gone again, and you really have no choice but to just hang out and relax. Obviously, he's being sued, but I'm talking about that doesn't dominate his entire life as far as what he's focusing on, every minute of every day. He could very well, just as hang out with it at the other points of the day and focus on other shit. Go see his grandkids. If they want anything to do with them, I have no idea. Again, we don't know that side of things. But at the same time, I'm just thinking to myself, why would he sit down and watch the show? We've already heard rumblings of him starting up another entertainment company, another entertainment entity. I honestly highly doubt that he would be sitting down on Monday nights with his Netflix subscription watching Monday Night Raw. I don't doubt for a second that while he was gone, that either Triple H was still talking to him, definitely Bruce Pritchard, asking him for pointers or just advice. And Triple H even did say when Vince was gone, but not really gone, that he was consulting with Vince on certain things, and he may not have always necessarily taken his advice, but he did talk to him about certain stuff. Is he still doing that now? I would fucking hope not. He hasn't confirmed or denied that. I think he may have denied it. I don't know if he's been flat out asked, do you have any contact with Vince? Now, I know that's your father-in-law, but I'm talking about in terms of the product. Does he try to give you pointers or try to worm his way back in? I'm sure he does. But honestly, it may not even be him. He might have someone else like watch the show for him. Like Bruce Pritchard might think the same way or a lot of the same ways that that Vince does. And he might complain to Vince, who then speaks to Triple H, who feels like he has authority, no pun intended, over Triple H even now. I don't know how it works. I don't know what side of succession WWE actually is behind the scenes. How much of that is real life? We have no idea. We could just merely speculate. I just find it hard to believe that he would sit down, fire up his Peacock subscription, and watch the PLEs and watch WWE, especially if he's not there to control it. He seems like such a fucking control freak, which is why he's been involved in so many legal messes over the course of his life, because he always has to be in control of this and dominating that. And not that he's never innocent on anything, but it seems like he always has to have control of the narrative specifically and just control in general. And if he can't control it, he wants nothing to do with it. He would either much rather, like, if he can't control a lawsuit against him, like, that's why he wants control of these lawsuits and send them money to have them go away and be quiet, because that means he's in control. And with WWE, if he can't control the product and change certain things, I doubt he would be watching. Now, that being said, to the second part of your question, if there were some things he would change, what would he change first? I mean, I think he would change a lot of names. I think, honestly, we kind of saw it a little bit. Like, when Triple H first took over in 2022, certain people were getting screen time and were being brought back. And then after being brought back or being, getting screen time, then they disappeared or then they were let go. And Triple H at the end of the day is also responsible for people being fired. There's been plenty of people who were fired under Triple H, like Indy Hartwell and Tegan Knox, Baron Corbin, or let go, whatever fucking terminology you want to use. I mean, that also falls on Triple H. He could have very easily not done that, or it doesn't slip through the cracks, and he just chooses not to do that. There's a lot of people, even now, he doesn't use. And that's also his choice. But, like, Triple H brought back Tegan Knox for a reason. He brought back Emma for a reason. He was doing certain things with certain people. And after a while, you didn't see those people on TV anymore. And it got to a point where they were just damaged goods, and Triple H ended up letting them go. It does fall on him that he could have tried to do more with them and try to, rehab their image and rehab their booking and whatnot. But he didn't. And he just let them go. It was just easier for him to say, throw his hands up in the air and say, hey, listen, I tried, we tried, whatever. Time to just, cut ties here and cut bait, or whatever the expression is, and just move on. But yeah, if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. Naishi in the comments in the chat here. Yeah, like Gable the Shorty G. Exactly. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised for a second if Vince McMahon was still around. American Alpha with Chad Gable in it would still be a thing. Gable, I mean, he's essentially in the same spot. Let's not kid ourselves that he was a year ago, just with a different group as a heel. He's hardly in a much better spot than he was a year ago at this point. But I guarantee you he would still be Otis, with Otis doing comedy shit. Changing a lot of the names. I don't think he would have hired Penta. There's a lot of people I don't think he would give a second look to. The Motor City Machine Guns would not be on the fucking main roster television. If WWE got their hands on them, they would be in NXT. Quite honestly, if Vince was still here, they would be in AEW. I can almost guarantee you of that. They're already friends with the Bucks. They came to WWE because they felt like they had a shot at having success. And so far, they have. They're on the show a lot of the weeks. And they're already former WWE Tag Team Champions. They won those belts within a fucking week of debuting on the show. So I feel like we wouldn't see certain people back in the company hear these reports about this guy maybe being interested, maybe, like former NXT stars that used to be in NXT could come back to the company, like an Aleister Black, Malachi Black, whatever. Vince would not welcome. I doubt, honestly, Vince would bring him back. And if he did, he would fucking bury him. I mean, we saw that with EC3. He came back a much bigger star from his time in TNA and NXT, and he had a decent run in NXT, but he was, hot shot to the main roster. They buried him on the main roster within, like, weeks, not even months, and then he was fired a year later. I feel like, just to prove a point, those people would not do well. Cody Rhodes, to his credit, I honestly thought when Cody Rhodes got brought back in, he would be a mid-carder, which honestly wouldn't be much different than what he was doing in AEW, because he was a mid-carder in AEW too, through his own volition, because he did not want to challenge for the World Championship, that whole stupid stipulation. But, I mean, honestly, when Cody Rhodes came back, I thought Vince would want to stick it to him like he did his dad, by putting him in polka dots. Not Cody, but his dad, he put in polka dots decades ago, because he was in charge of WCW. Dusty, I don't think ever won a championship in WWE. He was over. He was a memorable character in WWE for a time, but he was never the big star that he was in WCW, NWA, and promotions like that. I thought he would bring in Cody and make him a fucking mid-carder. Maybe not Stardust necessarily, but I did not think that he would push him the way that he did. And Cody's reintroduction and the win over Seth Rollins inside Hell in a Cell, the booking there, was all under Vince. And Triple H, thankfully, has carried that on. But the presentation of Cody was entirely Vince. So, like, for people like that, I think he would probably be in the same spot. I don't know if Damian Priest would have won the World Heavyweight Championship, at least the way that he did and held it for as long as he did. I don't think Gunther would be in the spot that he's in right now. I think Gunther would be a prime example that he would either be fired by now. He probably would have been fired years ago if Vince never left. Gunther would not be world heavyweight champion because his booking would have never really got past a point where people would have seen him at that level. LA Knight would not even be on the show, or you would see a whole lot less of him. Let's put it that way. I think a lot of names would be different. I feel like a lot of people that you see in the company would be different. As far as like, I don't know how much else would be. I mean, Kevin Dunn would probably still be there. He was a lifer for Vince McMahon. Kevin Dunn would still be there. We'd still get the shaky cam shots and all that fucking nonsense. That would probably still be what it was. And I don't know if, I mean, Lee Fitting's certainly not an angel based on shit that we've heard, but his production is objectively better than Kevin Dunn's in 2024, 2025. I don't know if that would have really changed. I mean, I think that would have changed as far. I don't think it would have changed as far as like I don't think Kevin Dunn would have left. Is my point. Naishi also in the chat. He did say I got the name right. That's good, Naishi. He said, and I agree. Speaking on him, why does it seem like Gable gets these pushes to be put back down and it repeats? Kind of like the commercial with the dollar on the fish hook. Yeah, he didn't see anything in Gunther, but he's great in every respect or aspect, in my opinion. Gunther is great. I'm glad they're pushing him. As far as the Gable thing is concerned, I honestly I don't know. I don't know because they tried. I mean, not that they. I mean, okay. Let me rephrase that. It's not like they tried and it didn't work. They had something there going into Mania last year where he should have, could have been, and should have been the guy to beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship, and they gave it to Sami Zayn instead. The Sami Zayn moment was still great. It was a great match, but they had an opportunity there to take someone that was not at that level and put them at that level by giving Gable that moment instead. I'm sure you could have found another spot on the card for Sami Zayn. And it wasn't even that. It wasn't even as if, okay, they didn't give him the Mania moment, but the aftermath, they could still salvage him. They did give him a feud. It's not as if they just moved on from that. Storyline-wise, it made sense for Gable to be jealous. He turned on Sami. They had a series of great matches. The problem is he never won the fucking belt. Braun Breaker did, and I thought that was great, and Braun Breaker's been a fun champion. He's been great in that spot. I don't think Braun Breaker needed to win the belt that quickly. You could have given that spot to Chad Gable instead. Braun Breaker winning the belt wasn't the wrong call, but I do think Gable would have benefited more from winning the championship at that time because then he went right back down the card. He formed another faction, which I was completely in favor of. I like American Made. They do the goofy comedy thing a little too much. I think serious Gable's really where it's at. But, I mean, he's never going to be like a world champion as Gable, but he is a guy that you could push at a mid-card level and at least give the United States Championship or the Intercontinental Championship to. And they just have not done it. So, they need to do a better job of that. They definitely need to do a better job of, pushing him and, showcasing him, showing us what he can do and stuff like that. And we've seen that in matches. We saw it last night in the match with Penta. We saw it a couple weeks ago in the match with Cody Rhodes on SmackDown about a month ago. The problem is they never follow up on it. He never wins when it matters most. He's won a lot of tag titles. That's great. I don't give a fuck. I want to see him as the Intercontinental Champion. We know what he can do. And the problem is, not even really a problem, it's funny because he had the chance to leave, and we heard all this talk from FTR for years. Oh, Chad Gable's amazing. He's not going to be there for much longer. And then he re-signed. I feel like he made the right choice by re-signing with WWE because it's not even as if, if he left and went to AEW, he would be in a much better spot. I don't think so. I really don't. In 2025, I don't think he'd be in a much better spot. Ricochet, it kind of seemed like for a while he would not have moved up the card from where he was in WWE, now in AEW, but he has recently in the feud of Swerve, which is cool. Long term, we'll see where he goes, and he's doing well as a heel right now. With Gable, he would have probably just been on fucking Collision. I mean, quite honestly, like, it would have been cool to see him up against certain people, but I don't want to just see cool matches. I want to see these people turn into meaningful stars on the show. No L, I'll get to your question in a second. Aishi said, I feel Gable should have beaten Gunther and Breaker could be the one to beat Gable at some point, would have put them all on the next level. I agree. There was nothing wrong with giving Gable a short run. They opted to not do that. I thought that was the wrong call. Noel says, hello, Greg. I guess my name's Greg today, but that's totally fine. I get Greg. I get Grant. I've gotten a whole bunch of names, but it's fine. Your question was, do you agree with Jeff Hardy's comment that if he lived his life differently in his early 20s and 30s, he could have been on John Cena's level? Great question. I've seen a lot of discourse about this the last couple of days. And after I answer this question, I'll go back to the scheduled questions from the document. In my opinion, and I know what he's talking about because I was watching WWE at that point. I lived through that. Not quite as much as other people. I started watching WWE in like a little bit later on in '08, so I wasn't watching WWE like religiously or every week in early '08 in like January, which is when he faced Randy Orton for the WWE title. People thought he should beat Randy Orton. He didn't. He lost, and that was it. And then he fucked his own push up by um, getting suspended. He was going to win Money in the Bank. That's been confirmed. And then he got suspended, and that didn't happen. But anyway, do I think had he not lived his life a certain way that he could have been the next John Cena? Honestly, no, I don't. I think Cena has certain qualities and components to him as a character, as a person, as an ambassador, as a company guy that Jeff does not. And Jeff's great, but even Jeff, like the way he lives his life today, like let's say what he's saying is if he didn't get himself suspended, if he was off the drugs and the alcohol and stuff like that, and he was much more reliable. We kind of saw that Jeff Hardy, even when he was a fucking mess. I mean, he had issues even in the early 2000s. That's why he left WWE in the first place in '03 or whatever it was and went to TNA. They still brought him back. Even with his issues, they brought him back. He was suspended a few times even after that, and they still put the world title on him, albeit not for long reigns, but he was never going to be like a 6-month long reigning champion anyway, at least in WWE. I know in TNA he was, but in WWE, he wasn't the type of guy to hold the championship for 6 months. I don't think, in my opinion. He was better in the chase mode. So anyway, he won the championship even when he was unreliable 3 fucking times. They gave him the WWE title and the World Heavyweight Championship twice. So, I mean, the second world title reign lasted a minute before CM Punk cashed in. The first WWE title reign lasted a month. The third one lasted, I think, a month as well. He won it in July, lost it in August. But my point is that even when he was unreliable, they still brought him back in 2017. They still pushed him in 2009. TNA still pushed him. He still afforded himself opportunities. But I just, even in meeting Jeff, interviewing Jeff, talking to Jeff, I don't know him like that closely, but he just does not seem like the guy. Like, you need to have a certain almost corporate energy to you to be in the spot that Cena was. He specifically said Cena, Jeff Hardy did. If he said like a perennial main event player, I agree with that. He would have been at the main event level in WWE for the rest of his career if he never left and never fucked up. Absolutely, because he was so popular. But at Cena's level, no. I mean, we're talking because he said I would be bigger than Cena is today. Not even at that point. Cena was already well established in '08. He was already the guy they were going with. I mean, I guess if he means like, would they have pushed him at that level in 2005, for example? Because like he wouldn't have messed. Like, I guess in that respect, he wouldn't have left in '03, so he wouldn't have been gone for 3 years. I guess that's what he means to a certain degree. I was thinking more like '08, '09. But like, I guess if you're taking that away, could he have gotten to the level that Cena was at quicker? No, I don't. I think Cena had a certain quality about him in terms of his promos, how he carries himself, how he looks. And it's a big looks business. John Cena's got a certain look about him that screams main eventer. Not that Jeff Hardy doesn't, but Jeff Hardy's much more soft spoken. He's not as great with like the media stuff. He's good with it, but he's much more of a free spirit. He's a rock star, but he's not a guy that you could put on Good Morning America for 6 different interviews across like different media outlets and get the same energy that Cody gives you. Sometimes you got to bullshit and not be a politician, so to speak, but you just have to be able to carry a company in a certain way. And even if he didn't fuck up, I still don't think he would have done that. I mean, he did carry TNA on his back for a few years there in the early 2010s after the fuck up, after the Victory Road incident. They put the world belt on him anyway for like a while. And he was still at the main event level through 2013 and 2014 and 2015. At that point, they put him back with Matt, his brother, in the tag team ranks. But even still, he was a reliable headliner for that, for the TNA level. Cena was just a guy. I think they not saw him from the get go and saw that's our guy. Because I mean, we've heard the stories about how he could have been fired in '02 and all this other shit. It took a while for him to find his footing, but Cena just, if you look at the two side by side, Cena looks like more of a star than Jeff Hardy does. And that would also to be implied that Cena, or rather Hardy, would have gotten the same opportunities that Cena did in Hollywood and hosting the Emmys. I don't think Jeff Hardy would have ever been that big, honestly. I don't. I think Jeff Hardy would have been very popular within the wrestling bubble, and people know who Jeff Hardy is and the Hardy Boys outside of the wrestling world, but not nearly as much as John Cena because of the shit that he's done in movies and stuff like that. Because he looks like a movie star, not the greatest actor in the world, but serviceable. I don't think Jeff, has he been in even a single movie? Like, and it's not just because he fucked up. He would have been afforded those opportunities if he wanted to do it. I don't think he wants to do it. I don't know if anyone wants to cast him in a movie. Cena they do, because he looks a certain way and he's got that energy about him. Naishi said, yeah, maybe not on the level of Cena, but could have been close, at least in terms of the just pro wrestling world, because I don't know, or I know many people that don't know much about wrestling, but they know Jeff. No, I agree. There are people that I know as well that either used to watch wrestling 20 years ago or don't really know much about wrestling that know the Hardy Boys or know Jeff Hardy. That is true. That is true. I'm not saying he's a complete no-namer, but Cena's just on a different level just because of the opportunity he's been given. Then you can ask yourself the question, well, would have Cena been given those opportunities if Jeff was in his spot instead? I do. Honestly, I still think like even Batista wasn't as big as Cena, and Batista still went on to become a big star outside of WWE through his own volition, through opportunities that he pursued. But again, he looks a certain way. There are certain people that never got beyond a certain level because of their looks and their promos. Jeff Hardy's promos were never his strong suit. It was his connection with the audience. Being over doesn't always necessarily translate to being the face of a company. That is my bottom line on that. Noel's other question that they sent in last night on Facebook, they asked thoughts on Roxanne Perez's NXT Women's Championship reign and where you would rank it. A lot of Roxanne questions here on the show in the last couple of weeks, specifically from Noel, but I'll answer that here. So she's now no longer the NXT Women's Champion. She, of course, dropped the championship last week to Julia on NXT New Year's Evil. And they had a good match. I thought it was a very good match. So where would I rank it? It was not the best NXT Women's Championship run of all time. I would still put Asuka's probably above hers, but she had a lot of quality matches. She had a lot of kick-ass matches, probably the best in-ring women's wrestler of 2024 for WWE. I mean, Liv and Nia had bigger years because they were on the main roster, but Roxanne, in terms of her match quality, was far better than them two. And I think she had more championship defenses as well, even though Liv and Nia improved immensely. But anyway, as far as Roxanne's run, much better than her first run, obviously, which was fairly forgettable. Indy's run was blinking and you missed it because she got hurt and she got drafted, so that wasn't great. Tiffany's run was fairly short. Becky's run I loved. I don't know, it's not the best. It only lasted like a month or 6 weeks, but I thought her run was very effective in getting Lyra over, giving the rub to some of the women in NXT, getting that belt some exposure on Raw, having regular championship defenses on Raw and NXT and on the PLEs. She had a very good run in NXT for as long as that she was there. So, I mean, I don't know if I would put it above Becky's. Even though Becky's was significantly shorter, I think I like Becky's more just because they packed a lot more into a shorter time frame. Roxanne's was really good for her mic work and character work and in-ring work, obviously. I would probably put it above Mandy Rose's run, which lasted longer, but Roxanne just had better matches. And the women's division at that point wasn't what it is today. Roxanne has had a lot more competition to deal with than Mandy Rose did in late 2021, late 2022. And Roxanne just had much better matches. So I think Roxanne's run was better than hers. You can maybe put it above Shayna's. Shayna held the belt for a long time, but the division was just in a better spot at that point. I mean, I think Roxanne had better matches overall, but Shayna was just so dominant, and she worked really well in that role. And she was a polarizing figure, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I think there are reigns that Roxanne, her reign does not exceed those. Like, Bailey's, I thought she had a great run. Asuka's run was better. Roxanne's run was better than Ember Moon's or Kairi Sane's. So I think it would be closer to the top of the list. It might be top five. But if it's top five, it would probably be five. I think Asuka's was better. I would put Shayna's run above Roxanne's. Um, I would put it above Mandy Rose's. Sasha Banks was champion for a little bit, so I would really have to think about that. Paige had a good run. She didn't have a lot of defenses, but she helped put that belt on the map when she won it, 12 years ago or whatever it was. So yeah, I would probably put it towards the top of the list. Richie back in the chat. Thank you for joining us, my friend. I appreciate it. He says, Return of the King, sup, Graham. And what's up, Richie? Thank you for joining us. As always, you're the man. Next question from Noel. And anyone watching right now, again, like I've said before earlier in the stream, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Support is greatly appreciated. And if you got a question that you didn't send in earlier to include here in the document that I got sitting in front of me, you can send in a question in the chat, and I can answer it before we, or not before, but as we get going through the other questions that people already sent in on social media in the last week. And I'll answer Naisha's comments last question before I go forward to No L's next question from Facebook. Naisha said, another shift in subject with this, but I genuinely think Kevin Owens should win the championship and run with it, run with the Winged Eagle unless they plan on doing more with Cody as champion. You would get no complaints out of me with Kevin Owens winning that championship. I don't think he is. I think, honestly, if they were going to, they should have given him the championship at Saturday night's main event. He has now had two different opportunities. This is different because it's a ladder match. So you might be asking, well, why would he get two title shots? He has to win the third, right? No, not necessarily. No. This is just to keep Cody busy. And it's a great feud, and they've had really good matches. I honestly am a lot less optimistic that Kevin Owens will win now. Because what do you do with Owens as champion going into Mania? I don't think Owens should win it and then lose it at Elimination Chamber. That would just be fucking dumb. The only other option for Owens at Mania as champion would be him and Orton, which doesn't need the belt, and him and Sammy, which would be great, but then what do you do with Cody? The thing with Cody is this, is that Cody would make sense at Mania. Cody has to be, at this point, he's held it for this long, he should walk into Mania as champion. The Rock match doesn't need the belt, but I think the Rock match at some point, whenever the fuck we get it, whether it be now, next year, 2030, I don't know. Whenever we get it, I think it will be for the championship, because Rock specifically said when he pinned Cody and when they had their subsequent interaction on Raw, he sure made it seem like that he wanted that championship. Didn't make it seem like that on his Raw promo last week or in NXT New Year's Eve. Well, that shit was just a waste of time. But I do think it would make sense to do that feud for that championship. So if so, you're not going to do Rock and Cody at Mania without the belt. At that point, it might as well just be for the. I mean, I don't think, because here's the thing: if you do Rock and Cody, which I don't think we're getting it this year, it's pretty clear to me that they're probably not doing it at WrestleMania or at all this year. And that's the only opponent for Cody that really makes sense. If you were to do like Cody and Punk, that's got to be for a belt. Him and Orton, Orton's not fit. I mean, we got to get Owens and Orton first. Orton's been out for this long. You're not going to blow that off at Chamber and then just move on. I feel like Owens and Orton is the match for Mania. That's it. And if Rock and Cody were to happen, is that going to headline night one without a championship? And then Owens and Orton is going to kick off night one or something? That's just stupid. I know that happened this past year, and they had a non-title tag team match, main event night one of Mania. I get that, but that was different circumstances. It involved the main event, like the world champions were involved in that match. If like Cody and Rock main event in night one with nothing on the line, it could still be a very good match. And Rock's not going to win the belt; he fucking shouldn't, obviously. That would be scary. We don't need that again from 2013. But I think it would make more sense to do that match for the belt. I don't think we're getting that match anyway. I don't think Kevin Owens should win the belt. If he does, I'd be very happy. I wouldn't complain, trust me. I think the Winged Eagle thing is going away after the Rumble. They're just doing it for the two belts hanging above the ring, and then they'll move on. They should keep it. They won't. It's just a one-off story. Would love to be wrong. That's just the way I see it going, though. King Matthew III, we have royalty in the chat. His question was, do you think Finn Balor should have beaten Damian Priest last night? And also, do you think Sheamus is going to finally win the Intercontinental Championship? If not him, then I predict Cena will. Two good questions. No, I don't think Finn Balor should have beaten Damian Priest. Damian Priest at this point is just a bigger priority. He's bigger star. Trust me, I've seen the reports. Oh, they're going to finally push Balor this year. They're not. Do not be fooled. I have seen those same reports for 5 years now. I mean, he'll be at a certain level. It's better than where he was on the card a couple of years ago, like 2-3 years ago, where he was either a tag team guy or just feuding in the fucking undercard, even though he was like a mid-card champion. He was never on TV. You cannot tell me any matches he had as United States champion 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And if you can, then you looked it up. You're lying to yourself because no one remembers any matches he had as the United States champion aside from when he won it and when he lost it. I'm not even sure he defended it between those two title matches. But anyway, no, I think Damian Priest winning was the right result. Finn Balor's fucked him over X amount of times. It made sense for Damian to finally give him his comeuppance. I know he already did a Bad Blood, but the feud should have ended there. They had a much better match last night. I like the match. It makes sense. So, no, I think the right result, I think that was the correct result. As far as Sheamus finally winning the IC Championship, I honestly don't see that happening. I don't at Saturday night's main event. There is a chance, though, and we'll talk more about this on Thursday on Wrestle Rant Radio. I'll throw this one out for you guys. What if Sheamus were to win the championship at Saturday night's main event, and they're doing it on that show, because Braun Breaker wins the Rumble? We get Braun Breaker and Gunther at WrestleMania. What about that? kind of thought about that this morning. I'm thinking, you know what? That's a possibility. Braun Breaker, I would put in the dark horse category to win the Rumble. Anything's better than Logan Paul winning the not anything, but like Logan Paul should not win the Rumble. If we are getting Gunther and Logan Paul at Mania, which is just so fucking random. I know he called him out at the Netflix Raw premiere at the thing at headquarters. I get it. But that would I think that's stupid. So, no, I don't think Sheamus is going to win. I know. I think Breaker will retain. If you're going to give Sheamus his moment, I think it should be at Mania. If he gets it on Saturday night's main event, that's great too. I just don't see it happening. You predict Cena will, though. Yeah, Cena winning the championship. I said this last week. I don't see that happening either. I don't think Cena is going to go after any gold that is not world championship. I don't think he needs to. If he does, that's cool. I think people put too much stock in the idea that Cena would want the IC title. I know he won the U.S. Championship and is gone for the U.S. Championship. He had a history with that belt, though. He won. That was the first championship he won in WWE 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. So when he won it back in 2015, it made sense from that standpoint. Like he's going to put it on the map again. That time the belt made Cena. In 2015, he made the belt. I hate that Logan is really good in the ring. He is really good in the ring. I agree, but I don't want to win in the fucking Rumble. That'd be awful. But anyway, what was I even saying? What was I talking about? I don't remember. Oh, Cena winning the IC Championship. Cena has never won. Has he ever once said in any interview ever on TV or otherwise that he wants the IC Championship? I don't think that honestly, I don't really think he gives a fuck about that belt. Not that he gives a fuck about the World Championship more. I don't think he wants to win any belts, but if they're going to force him to win a belt, it would be the World Championship. Not that there's no story there with the IC belt, but I feel like that story has passed, and he really should be focused on winning matches because he hasn't won a singles match in years, as he talked about in over almost 2,500 days. I get that, but he should also try to break the World Championship record. The whole Triple Crown Grand Slam champion thing, he doesn't give a fuck. They've never, the whole, is anyone really on TV talked about, I mean, I know they've mentioned it, but has anyone ever said, aside from Sheamus, oh, I want to win this belt so I can become a Grand Slam champion? No one says that. They don't really talk about that. It's not really something that people strive for on the show. So, I mean, it would be cool, don't get me wrong, but like Cena and Breaker also does not need to be for the IC title. And Cena beating Breaker would just be fucking dumb. Breaker should destroy John Cena if and when that match happens. Number of comments here. Richie said, Rock Cena or Punk versus Cody for the title, even though they arguably don't need a belt involved, but it would put more butts in the seats for sure. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't see Cody and Cena happening without a championship. There's just no reason for that match to happen. I know it doesn't need the belt. You're right. I just don't see it happen. Like, how do you even get to that match without it being for a belt? Rock and Cody, you could do without the belt, but then it's going to take precedence over the belt, so that's why I would just keep the belt on Cody. And Punk and Cody would be a great feud, but again, how do you get to that without a championship being involved? They're not even on the same show currently. They're both baby faces. I wouldn't turn Cody heel right now. I wouldn't turn Punk right now anyway, at least not this soon. All of those matches, if they do happen, would all be for the belt at this point. Richie did say, if Rock won the belt in 2025, 2026, don't you fucking say that, Richie. Do not put that evil on us. What's that line from Talladega Nights? Bobby something? Bobby, I don't know. Something. Whatever he said. Don't put that evil on us, Richie. He said, then what are we doing? If Rock won the belt in 2025, 2026, then what are we doing? Yeah, nothing. We're not watching the show is what we're doing. Richie also said Damian Priest can finally move on like Rhea with the Judgment Day. Look to him declaring his entry into the Rumble probably next Monday. I agree. I think Damian Priest will absolutely be in the Rumble. He'll say, I got fucked out of the championship a couple different times. I want to win the Rumble. That makes sense. We got a lot of comments, so I'll try to get through as many of these as I can before we go to the next question that people sent in earlier. Richie also said, though, Finn will get his time. Wouldn't have minded seeing him with the championship for a bit when he had that banger with Rollins at SummerSlam 2 years ago, but hopefully he'll get another run one more time. Listen, bro, like I agree, but you can point to as many instances as you want in the last 5 years. They should have put the belt on Finn in 2023. I agree. They could have had him beat Roman, which they weren't, but he could have beaten Roman for the belt that he never lost, the Universal Championship back in 2021. They did not. They could have put the belt on him in 2022. They did not. There's been a lot of instances of Balor going for world championship. They could have put the belt on him at Saturday night's main event. They did not. He gets so many opportunities and he never fucking wins. It's the Kevin Owens effect at this point. Kevin Owens I care more about, but with Finn, he's just at a point where we passed the point where it even makes sense to put the belt on him. If you wanted to do it, you missed your opportunity. Whether it was Triple H or Vince, both are guilty at this point. They missed that window. I'd rather see other people get the opportunity. Noel said, Graham, do you see Roxanne before she gets... Another Roxanne question. Do you see Roxanne before she gets drafted to the main roster pulling a 2012 CM Punk, I didn't lose my title, I'm still your reigning NXT Women's Champion against Julia? Why, though? Why would she say that? She got beaten clean. I think she's not done in NXT. I don't think last week's match was the end of her in NXT. But, like, what does 2012 CM Punk have to do with it, though? I mean, CM Punk didn't even lose the belt in 2012. He lost it in 2013. Punk also lost twice. So he didn't really have a claim to the championship either. If she lost it in a ladder match, which she did back in 2023, Roxanne did, her first run ended in a ladder match. That made sense for her to turn heel and get upset about not getting it back. She never got a one-on-one opportunity, blah, blah, blah. This time, there's no excuses. She got beat clean in the middle of the ring. So they might do a rematch, a Vengeance Day. I wouldn't be shocked. That's coming up in like a month. I think Valentine's Day weekend next month. They could do a Mania weekend, but beyond that, she's main roster bound, probably by WrestleMania season. Nick said on SmackDown last week, someone said that Naomi was a defending champ, which put a sour taste in my mouth because she isn't. Do you think Bianca and Naomi should release the tag titles? Here's my thing, and I don't know where I said this. Naomi, I don't think he's even technically one half of the tag team champions. They had one title defense at the SmackDown that you were at, Nick, actually, in Hartford. They'd aired the following week, right before Christmas. But that was weeks ago. Technically, Jade's been out for like 2 months. This makes no sense to me because on the website, which is typically accurate, or is at least supposed to be accurate, Jade is still one half of the tag team champions. So is Naomi the champion, or is Jade the champion? Use this opportunity to get rid of the belts. Get rid of the tag titles. Throw them in the trash. Pull a 24/7 championship, throw it in the trash, and move on. That's what I would do. Jade comes back, they forget all about the tag titles, and then you just move the fuck on. That's what I would do personally. Let's see. Yeah, she's not a defending champ. That makes no sense. If Logan Paul wins the Royal Rumble, Noel says, the internet would lose their minds. The amount of heat Logan Paul would get would be on the level of Dom times 100. Oh, yeah. I could, definitely. A lot of heat there. And it's not out of the realm of possibility is the problem because Gunther and Logan Paul has been rumored. That's the problem. That's a legit possibility. Absolutely fucking not. Logan Paul winning the U.S. Championship was enough, LOL. I agree, Richie. He also said, the only thing I want to see from Logan Paul is him teaming with Dom, and that'd be some nuclear heat. Listen, I don't like... Listen, Logan Paul, there's a lot to say there. As an on-air character, I really don't mind him as much as most. I don't want to sit here and say, I fucking despise Logan Paul. Get off my screen. I think there's a way to utilize him that makes sense. And honestly, most of the way that they've utilized him in the last couple of years, to me, has made sense. That's a hot take. But, like, I like the Roman Reigns match. The Rollins match was great. The LA Knight match I liked. The Triple Threat at Mania last year was great. He's had a lot of great matches. So I feel like there's value there with Logan Paul. Not, like, a lot. But not to the point where he should win the world title. If he does, it needs to make sense. The problem is he's never fucking around. Like, the U.S. Championship thing lasted for so long. He really should have been champion from November to April. Even that's a long time. But he should have lost at a WrestleMania to LA Knight. But they pushed it back. And instead, he was gone for like 9 months. And that championship was never fucking defended on the show. That's a problem. So there's a way to utilize him. And putting the belt on him and having him disappear, even though, I'm a full-timer now. I know that's a lie. Obviously, he's capping, as the kids would say, because he's never fucking around. He's wrestled one TV match in the last 3 years. That was a year ago, randomly. Or actually, no, he wrestled 2 TV matches. I think he was in a qualifier for Money in the Bank at MSG last year when I was there. Beyond that, he never wrestles on TV. Just, what's the point then? Naishi would make him on the list of Grand Slam champs, but I don't think he cares for that or that it matters. No, I agree. I don't really think it matters. Only Miz Flex is being a 2-time Grand Slam champion. Exactly. I don't think does anyone else give a shit beyond the Miz? I mean, I think it's cool. It's not really something you need to make a story about, I don't think. King Matthew III said, who do you predict Cody will face at WrestleMania? I feel like it's going to be Randy Orton, since the rumors of The Rock not being a Mania may mean Roman may face Solo for the Ula Fala in a rematch. Absolutely not. Listen, King Matthew III. You can tell King Matthew II and the first and everyone else in your regal family that is an awful idea. I know you're saying that's what you think may happen and not necessarily what you want. Maybe if that's what you want to happen, we need to have a word with each other, because that would be fucking awful. The match that we got last week was enough. It was fun. End it. Move on. I think a match at Mania that makes more sense is Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa. If Solo gets bumped from the bloodline, him as a babyface would be weird right now, but I think that's the match to do at Mania is Solo and Jacob. Do not do Roman and Solo again. Please move on from that. We are finished with that. That would be awful. Who do I think Cody will face? Probably Cena. I think I would rather Cena face like Drew instead in like a non-title match. But if Cody's not facing Rock, as a lot of us thought he would, I mean, Cody and Randy would be great, but I think Randy's facing Owens. Could you do Cody and Randy and Owens insane? Yeah, you could do that. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I think there's a good chance they could. But they got to do Owens and Orton first. That was the problem. And you're going to rush into that at Elimination Chamber and then turn Orton heel? That would be weird. So I think we're probably getting Cody and Cena. What was rumored is probably happening. Just to give you guys a heads up. Naishi said, keep Dom away from Logan. I think Dom can now shine in the singles division with his character now maybe a manager. By 2028, he will be a world champion, just like I called it a year before Priest won it. Dom, yeah, I could see him being a world champion. Have him win Money in the Bank at some point. I feel like that would get a lot of heat. Richie said, I can see Stand and Deliver this year being Trick and Roxanne's swan song before heading to Raw or SmackDown before Mania or after Mania. I agree. He also said NXT won't be the same without the two of them, but they have so much talent lined up that they're in good hands. Yeah, well, listen, I agree. They have good talent there. The men's division specifically is depleted as fuck. The fact that Eddie Thorpe, who I think is good, don't get me wrong, the fact that he was even in that main event tells me you have an issue with your men's division. Not you, Richie. I'm saying, like, generally speaking, like, NXT has an issue with its men's division that they don't have enough talent there. There's just not enough talent. What the fuck are Sean Spears? What is he chasing the North American title for? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Brooks Jensen? What the fuck is this? There's some good talent on that show, but they've lost a lot of it to Raw and SmackDown and have not exactly replenished the pot. They brought in Ethan Page. They need to bring in more people. He is not enough. Lexus King, who they brought in about a year or so ago, is not enough. They need more people beyond who we see on the show right now. King Matthew III also, I promise we'll get back to the questions, the scheduled questions in a second, but I appreciate everyone joining in the chat. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, all that stuff is appreciated. We do this stuff every Tuesday for those that are unaware. King Matthew III said also, who do you want to face Cena during his retirement tour? My top three opponents for him are Carmelo Hayes, Gunther, and Braun Breaker, and some old feuds like CM Punk, Sheamus, and Rollins. I don't know if we get Cena and Sheamus. I do absolutely think at some point we'll get Punk and Cena. Cena and Rollins, I don't know if we'll get. I don't know if we need it because we've seen a lot of matches from them since, Punk we haven't seen since 2013. We've seen Cena and Rollins in 2014, 2015, 2016. Think they had a mini match in the Gauntlet in 2018. So we've seen it more recently than Punk and Cena, but I would be fine with that. Cena and Hayes would be cool. I don't know how much or how often Cena's going to be wrestling. He's not even appearing again, apparently, until the Rumble. That's just ridiculous to me. Gunther, I think, will get. Braun Breaker's pretty likely. Carmelo's the least likely, but I do think there's a decent chance we could get it, hopefully. Hayes would lose, but I think we can get it. Richie said, LOL, throw it in the trash, man. No, they just need to put some emphasis on that division. NXT women's division is on fire, and they would benefit from those tag titles. Unifying them was terrible. I disagree. I just don't think they know how to book women's tag titles. Yes, they have good women, but now we have mid-card belts. There's no reason to have tag titles, too. I don't give a fuck about Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. If you tell me that you give a fuck about PFC, you are lying to yourself as well. Who gives a shit about those teams? Listen, I think they made it work initially 6 years ago. They have proven to me, Triple H and Vince McMahon both, that they do not know how to book it. Even in TNA, the women's tag titles have been around for a few years now, and it's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, they've kind of served their purpose, and I'm ready to move on. There's only so many stories. You can tell good stories. They're just not capable, with the tag titles anyway, specifically, of telling good stories. There has not been one women's tag team title feud in the last 6 years I would go, you know what, that was a great feud. Aside from when Sasha and Bayley held those belts as the dominant champions in 2020, beyond that, there has been not one story told of those tag titles that I gave a singular shit about. So I would just get rid of them. Ahmed said, thank you for joining us, Ahmed. He said, I thought this week's episode of Raw was better than last week's. I absolutely agree. It was much better, and I enjoyed last week's. Richie said that crazy how a mid-card title belt ended up going missing like Brock Lesnar back in the day with the WWE title. If Logan is going to go on Raw, he has to be around more if he wants to achieve what he claims. I totally agree. I completely agree. I mean, I know he's joking when he goes, "Oh, full time now." I know it's supposed to get like, "Oh, it's." I know you're lying, dude. I know you're lying. Don't lie to us. We know you're not around full time, so don't even say that. Um, but listen, I don't know. Don't put the world belt on him if he's not going to be around. That's my thing. Or at least, I mean, if he's a world champion for a month or two, and he loses the belt to the same guy that he beat for it, and they tell a story there, then sure. But none of this 8-month, reigning bullshit like with Logan Paul as the U.S. champion. That was just went on for way too fucking long. Millennial Noob, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. He said, "Good afternoon, Graham. How you doing?" I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us. As always, Millennial Noob. Ahmed said 2 hours and 30 minutes are another reason why this week was better. I agree, God. I literally got on my hands and knees and I said, "Thank you, wrestling gods." JBL's going to be there next week, so maybe that's why it happened. But thank you, wrestling gods, for the 2.5 hour runtime. I will never complain again about a 2.5 hour wrestling show. 2 hours is ideal. 2.5 hours is a sweet spot. It's perfect. 3 hours is too long. 2.5 hours, oh, beautiful. It's beautiful. Richie said, "My men's division has a problem." Yes, your men's division, Richie, has a problem. He also said February 25th this year, 10 years since Punk and Cena last locked horns. We need it again. It's actually 11 years. Or no, 12. Where the fuck does the time go? February 25th is a Tuesday, so unless they have a match on NXT, it's not going to happen. That was 12 years ago that Punk and Cena had their last match. Not 10, 12. Where does the time go? Millennial Noob said, "What are your thoughts on Lyra Valkyria becoming the first ever women's IC champion? Also, what is next for Damage Control with Asuka rumored to come back, Kairi injured, and Io Sky and Dakota on their own?" I think Lyra winning was great. Dakota winning would have been awesome. I thought they had a fun match. I liked the match. Great moment for Lyra. She screams more of someone that you can build a division around to start. Dakota can win it down the road. 12, Richie meant to say. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I think Damage Control is good. What's next for them? I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know what you do with them. I would have Io in the Rumble and face Rhea at WrestleMania for sure. I know you didn't say that. I know people are thinking that. I would like to see it. With the rest of them, Dakota can stay in the mid-card title. Just keep them fucking away from PFC. It's probably where we're going here, is them continuing to feud with the group. I just don't care. Move them back to SmackDown, maybe. I don't give a fuck. Keep them away from PFC. I don't give a shit. Richie said PFC and Katana, and the other one are no bueno. The latter more so than anything. I mean, they have some good teams. I just don't care about the division. I just don't give a fuck. Nick said in all caps, PFC is the best trio tag team ever in the history of WWE and WWF. LOL. JK, JK. Yeah, who gives a shit? Who cares? Who gives a shit? Listen, I like all three women. I think Sonya's good. I think Zoe Stark is a good wrestler. That's about it. I like Shayna. Her time is just, who gives a shit? At this point, I just don't care. The three women together is a recipe for me changing the channel. I just don't give a shit. And last question I'll try to answer here before we get back to the regular questions, I promise you. And we're closing in on an hour. We've already been talking for an hour. Holy shit. Time flies when you're having fun. King Matthew said, "Hot take, but I feel like The Miz should have beaten Sami Zayn last night." Also, who do you predict wins the world title match between Jey Uso and Gunther? I think Gunther wins. I think Gunther wins too, but you can't count out Jey Uso winning because they kind of emphasized last night, "Oh, Gunther, I've beaten, Gunther said I beat you twice." Makes it sound like Jey could pull out the win, but for what reason? To hold it for a month before he loses it, like at Elimination Chamber? What's the point? I feel like that'd be a waste. The IC title thing made sense. I like the IC title thing. The IC title you can hold for 6 weeks. The World Championship, sometimes, depending on the story, can also hold for 6 weeks. But him winning the World Championship just to lose, because he's not walking. Jey Uso, I can guarantee you, was not walking into WrestleMania the World Champion. So having him win it for a month, the IC title thing, we just saw that with the IC title too. That's the problem. That story's not a bad story, but we just saw it recently. So why shortchange him in that respect? The time it just feels like a filler match to do because we need an opponent for Ahmed. Or I said Ahmed because he's in the chat. Yeah, we need an opponent for Ahmed. We need an opponent for Gunther, so just give him Jey. Yeah, I don't care. Not that I don't care, but I don't care about him getting a month-long run as world champion. Save it for down the road when you can tell a better story around it, in my opinion. Richie said PF Chang's my favorite trio. Hey, listen, PF Chang's is amazing. And Nick, if he's still here, can can vouch for that. He can vouch for that just because we went to PF Chang's. I mean, he's been obviously before because he was like, oh, we got to go. I had never been before. And we went actually the day of Survivor Series. And yeah, I'm in for the Rumble. I agree. We went to PF Chang's before Survivor Series, before we watched it about a month and a half ago, and it was great. Really, really good shit. I will definitely be back. There's not a whole lot of them here in Connecticut, but we went to one of them and we had a blast. Ahmed said, I definitely need an opponent. Ahmed also said earlier, is it me or this transfer portal is taking way too long because this past Friday's episode was boring as fuck. They need to pick up the pace. They need Drew, Sammy, and American Made. I don't know what's... Honestly, this whole transfer portal just feels like an excuse to get people on different shows, but not actually put them there. It's just so fucking lazy. Yeah, Nick, you were a witness. You were there. It was good. It's a good recommendation on Mr. Nick's part. Yeah, the transfer portal stuff is lazy. They were just like Braun moved. I guess the Wyatt 6 moved for some reason. Of all the moves to make, that was not one of them. Why would you move the Wyatt 6? That feels first of all more like a Raw gimmick to me. And second of all, they didn't finish their feud at the Final Testament. Not that anyone really cares, but that's worth noting. And three, if American Made now go to SmackDown, they're on the same show as the people they already feuded with. I know that happens, but with factions, you got to be careful. So I don't. At this point, does American Made even move? I don't know. It's a mess, dude. It's just a mess right now. Hassan, if I mispronounce her name, I apologize. He said, hey there, Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us, Hassan. I appreciate it. Richie said, Jay's promo last night was fire. I like when he shows more of a serious side. The Yeet stuff is fun, sure, but showcasing that he's more than that is always fun to see, in my opinion. I thought the exact same thing. I thought, listen, the Yeet stuff is fun, but we got to move on from this. He cannot be doing this all the time. He's got to be more serious. And they did a good job of that, I thought, by having him get serious when he needed to. When he's just saying, I'm going to win the world title, yeet, and beat you, Gunther, yeet, the people wants to see it, yeet. Like, that's just annoying to me. That is not someone that you would put a world title on. You said Drew could cost Jay the match. Yeah, he could. Yeah, I think that's possible. You know what I was thinking, though? I don't think Jey Uso is winning the belt. But you know what I was thinking? This is kind of scary. I mean, Jey Uso winning the belt is not scary. I guess this isn't really scary. But you know what I was thinking? If Jey wins, he's not going to beat Gunther clean. I don't think he should. You know who could cost Gunther the win? Goldberg. Because Goldberg's advertised for the Raw after Saturday night's main event. Why is he advertised for a random Raw? I know they're like revealing 2K25 stuff that day. They teased that last week. Roman's going to be on that show, I think. Unless he's saying that he's going to be in the Rumble that coming weekend, why would you have Gold? I mean, I know he's in Atlanta. It's just weird. I'm a little worried that he might cost Gunther the belt, and then on that Monday's Raw, he might say, we have an issue or whatever, and that builds to Gunther and Goldberg and Mania. Just to keep an eye out for it. It's something that could happen. We asked for American Made, not Wyatt 6. Exactly. I agree, Ahmed. We did not want American Made on. We did not want Wyatt 6 on SmackDown. That just doesn't make sense. Do the Wyatt 6 move, Nick says. Do the Wyatt 6 move and how they delivered it was such a fucking breeze by. If I wasn't listening, I would have missed it. Guess what? I did miss it. I saw it on Twitter. I was watching that segment, but I was talking with Alexis or something. I don't know. We were talking or whatever. I mean, I watched the latter half of the segment, but he said it in like this. So then I saw it on Twitter. I'm like, what happened? Was that something they said? And I went back and watched the segment. I'm like, oh shit, they did. Why though? It's so weird. I'm glad they explained it, but it was very lazy though. King Matthew III said, did they ever say who New Day was fighting next week? They did not. I thought they advertised them against Ray and Dragon Lee for this week's show and a graphic last week. That's I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they know what they're doing. It seems very disorganized to me. It should be Ray and Dragon Lee because that's who they were having an issue with a couple of weeks ago. Could be Alpha Academy. That would also make sense, but they didn't advertise who they were facing. They just said in action. That tells me they have no fucking clue. And then Richie also said, Jay's yeeting is like that episode of SpongeBob when he went to rock bottom and was trying to get to the bus back to Bikini Bottom. I would like get back to Bikini Bottom. Yeah, exactly. That's literally what Jey Uso, that's a great comparison. That is literally what Jey Uso's promos are, with all the yeeting and shit like that. Back to the questions from earlier. I know we haven't talked in like a half hour about these questions that we sent in. I was busy with the chat. But thank you to everyone that's sending in chats. I'll get back to it momentarily. Everyone that's tuning in live. Noel said earlier, do you think anyone will break Stone Cold's 3 Royal Rumble wins someday? I don't. I think someone could tie it. I think Cena could very well tie it with the Rumble this year. He's not going to break it because he's not coming back to wrestle again after this year, he said. No, I don't think it happens. I don't, because no one even has three except for Stone Cold. So to break that, you would have to first tie it. So that would mean like Roman winning like another three more, or Orton winning another two more. I don't see that happening. So could someone break it someday? Maybe, but that would mean winning four Rumbles. And when Stone Cold won it, he won three in the span of like a couple of years in a row. It made sense. It's just, it's a different time. I don't know if people were complaining about him winning three Rumbles back then, because, I mean, I think people now would be like, oh, this is like so like old. Like, we already saw this person win it a year or two ago. Cody's now won two. I think Cody could win a third one down the road. I don't know if he'll ever break Stone Cold's three Rumble wins. He actually broke Stone Cold's record. Not broke the record, but he became the first person to win back-to-back Rumbles since Stone Cold over 25 years ago. And he did that by winning the Rumble in 2023 and 2024. So that's pretty cool, right? But yeah, breaking the record, probably not. Richie said in the chat, 24-hour stream question mark. We need a Lilo and Stitch lesson. You goddamn right you guys do. You guys need a full-on lesson of what's canon with Lilo and Stitch and what is not. And maybe a 24-hour stream would accomplish that. I don't know if I could do a 24-hour stream. I feel like that'd be fun. I just feel like me staying awake for, unless you want to watch me sleep, which is also I guess a little weird, but I guess if you wanted to, hey, that's fine too, I suppose. I'm not staying. I don't know if I've ever stayed up for 24 hours. I've stayed up for 23 hours. I don't know if I've stayed up for a full 24 hours. And when I did come close to it, I like was about to fucking die. It was bad. That's happened a few times, but 24 hours consecutively, I'm not sure. King Matthew III, he said, here's my prediction. Jey Uso beats Gunther due to Goldberg. And then in the Royal Rumble, Drew faces Jey for the belt since Gunther faces Goldberg at the next Raw. Then in the next Raw, Jey loses in a rematch. Loses in a rematch of the belt. Yeah. You said Drew faces Jey. Would Jey beat Drew again? I don't see that happening. Yeah. I don't see that happening. Jey losing the belt right back to Gunther. I don't see that happening either. I don't. Just because what's the point of Gunther? What's the point of Jey even winning it if he's going to hold it for like a week? At that point, just save it for down the road when it actually matters. Richie asked, why did you stay up for 23 hours? I feel like it's happened maybe not once or twice. I'll give you a couple different instances. The first major instance, and I'll get back to the questions, I promise, in a second. The first major instance of that was when I was in high school. I don't know about you guys, but when I graduated high school, we had a thing like it was project graduation, and afterward you don't have to, but they do this gimmick where you graduate and then you go back to the school and they keep you there until a certain time and they don't want you to drive home. And I wasn't even driving home. I was getting a ride home anyway, but they still don't want you to leave until like fucking 6 o'clock in the morning or some shit. I think it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was awful. Like, I got up early that day, or like maybe at like 7 or 8 for graduation, which was at like 1 maybe or whatever. And I think I went to bed at like 6 or 7, and I slept until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. It was fucking bad. But yeah, I mean, I did that because I had to. But then in retrospect, I'm like, that was not worth it. That was not fun. That was dumb. I never saw any of those kids again anyway. Stupid. That was just a waste of time. So I stayed up for 23 hours or close to it that day. Since then, honestly, there's been several instances, and I could go on a whole story time about this, maybe another time, where I've stayed up for 23 hours just working on stuff. Honestly, after shows, coming back from shows. I'll give you a sneak peek. When I went to WrestleMania last year, I went to Raw. I mean, I get no sleep those weekends anyway, but I went to Raw after Mania last year, and I had to do an article after the show was over for the morning. But the problem was that I was in Philly at Raw, and I couldn't really work on the article until the show was over. And after the show's over, I got to leave. So, and then I dropped a whole bunch of people off that I kind of regret in retrospect because they didn't really, I mean, they appreciated it, but I'm like, what the fuck am I putting myself through this for? Like, it was nice, but I also drove them around all weekend. Didn't really like, I don't know. It was just a dumb situation. So anyway, Raw ends at like 11, and then I drive all these people. They were staying in the area. I dropped them all home. I drive them all home. And then we didn't get back from Philly until like 5 o'clock in the morning. So then I was up when I got back, almost like died on the way home, falling asleep at the wheel. Thankfully, it wasn't just me; it was Alexis. So we switched off, and even she was tired. So it was really really bad. But then when I got back, I was up for several hours working on said article, and I don't think I was up for 24 hours. 'Cause I don't think I think if I went to bed, if I fell asleep at like 8 a.m. or something, or 9 a.m. or whatever, and slept for a couple hours before starting all over again that day. The day before, I probably woke up. I don't think I woke up at 8 or 9. I probably woke up at like 10. So technically, I didn't stay up for 24 hours, but it was close. It's very dangerous. That's happened a couple times, but hey, it's the shit that happens, I guess. Ahmed also said, ever since last year, did it make you think of The Rock differently? The way he changes plans and shit just completely ruining Triple H's plans. He even broke his final boss character for no reason. It makes me look at The Rock a little differently. But I think I already kind of had this. I love The Rock. I do. Whenever it comes back, I'm excited, and I still will be. I always will be. But I mean, I've been thinking the same thing about The Rock for the last 5 years. If you want to do this match, you come back and fucking do the match. Don't say, oh, I want to have this match, and then never do the match. If you control the schedule, you can come back and do the match. None of this bullshit that you want to do it, but you're not going to. Because I'm too busy. I'm going to wait 10 years. That bothers me. When Cena says he wants to do something or come back to do it, he fucking does it. That's what bothers me. Not this shit about like, um, this fucking nonsense about, oh, I'm gonna do it, but when I get to it, it's like, no, just fucking do it, and then let's move on, please. King Matthew III said, who do you think is winning the Royal Rumble this year? I kind of want it to be Sheamus or even Drew, but in reality, it's going to be CM Punk most likely. I'd be happy with Punk because he's never won it. Sheamus has won one, so is Drew, so I kind of want someone that hasn't won it before, and that does not mean Logan Paul. That does not mean Logan Paul. Definitely not. Sheamus is absolutely not winning it. Drew, I don't think is winning it either. That would be cool. But I don't think Drew's going to win it. I think it's going to be Punk. I think Cena's still my pick. Cena's still my pick to win the Rumble. That could change in the coming weeks. Cena's the most likely. That's how I see it going down. And Richie also said that drive back from Mania 40 was nasty. I got out of the parking lot at like 1 a.m. Oh my God, the traffic was awful. Got back home at 5. Got up for work at 8. But man, was it worth it. But I got sick 2 days later. LOL. Yeah, dude, it was. Yeah, that was tough. Philly was nice because we didn't have to fly back from it. Alexis in the chat saying hi everyone. Hope she's doing well. Thank you for joining us, Alexis. Richie saying, yeah, it was tough, dude. I mean, you can ask Alexis. She's in the chat, but that drive back from Mania was really bad. It was really bad. We were very very tired. We've had a lot of drives like that, but that one was worse probably than. And she said, why did I not know you were live? It's called pay attention. It's called turn on notifications. Alexis didn't know we were live. It's called turn on notifications, which I know she has. We go live. We're going live around 11, 12, 1 Eastern every week. Fucking pay attention. And join in the chat with Richie and Nick. Let's get back to the questions here. I mean, we can't go too long. We're already at like an hour 14. I got other shit I got to do today, okay? I got other work I got to do here. Anyway, Christopher L said, "Hey Graham, hope everything's going well. Hope you had a great New Year's." I can't I can't read the chat right now. Richie Nick said click the bell, and Richie said hit that bell icon. Yeah, exactly. They're doing my job for me. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm gonna close that right now. I'm not gonna close it, but I'm not gonna look at it because I'm gonna get very distracted looking at the chat. I'm not gonna be able to read this question with a straight face. Christopher Christopher L said, "Hey Graham, hope everything is going well. You had a great New Year's and are having a splendid week so far. Sorry I didn't get the stupid dude. It's just dumb. Not the question. The fact that why are you joining now? We've been live for an hour and 15 minutes. I don't know. Anyway, he said, sorry I didn't get the memo for last week's show, but glad to be on for this week. I have to say I was badly disappointed from what I saw and heard from last week's Raw Netflix premiere. Did you not watch it? Did you just hear about it? Lots of filler for the sake of filler, obnoxiously pointing out mainstream celebrities to try to gain street cred. Travis Scott making an ass out of himself, and worst of all, The Rock appearing on the show acting like last year was a distant memory, which infuriates me just thinking about it since the whole situation with Cody was literally his fault. Exactly, Christopher. And putting him over like they're friends is just embarrassing. Not to mention, him mentioning the gates and the sheep in the crowd cheering for it was just sad to me. I just feel they overhyped the hell out of the show, and they underdelivered big time. Do you feel they overhyped the show to the point that they probably couldn't reach that level of heights quality-wise? And do you think WWE altogether is starting to overhype everything like they do too often? WWE has always overhyped everything. They've been doing that for decades now. So that doesn't surprise me. Did they overhype last week's premiere? No, because it was a big deal that they were on Netflix. Was it the best show they've ever done? No. This week's show was actually better. And it did not have all the hype behind it. Had a lot of stuff advertised and they delivered and it was a fun show. But it wasn't, last week's show was a bigger show. And I mean, did they ever promise it would be the best show? I said it might be the best show in advertising it to non-wrestling people because I want people to watch the fucking show. But was it a disappointment? To me, I enjoyed the show. I talked about it last week. I liked the show. We won't go too much into detail about it because you can just check out last week's stream. I enjoyed that one. I talked a lot more about it in detail, but I enjoyed the show for what it was. And I thought it was a nice introductory show for the casual fan. This show is for the weekly watchers, people that actually watch the product regularly. And hopefully you enjoyed it, because I fucking did. I thought it was a great show. He also asked, and I'm going to read Christopher's. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read Christopher's questions, answer these questions, and if there's any chats that I'm not looking at right now because I'm going to get distracted, I'll get back to it after I answer these next two questions, because I feel like I'm going to get off track again, and we're already here for an hour and 17 minutes. Christopher said, thoughts on the Hulk Hogan reaction last Monday. Personally, I loved every minute of it, and I'm glad people are finally opening their eyes to what an asshole, he said a-hole, I'm going to say asshole, he is and always has been. What are your thoughts, and why do you think he was booed out of Los Angeles? Honestly, I don't think there's any one reason. I mean, there's one very big reason, the elephant in the room, the fact that he's just said a lot of racist shit, and he continues to do so too. I mean, we could do a whole video on Hogan, but here's the long and short of it. Yes, I do think politics had something to do with it, or it did have something to do with it, and that's not a bad thing. It's not like, oh, Republican bad. I mean, listen, first of all, Los Angeles, which is where they were, a very liberal city, blue state, whatever, I get it. So that's one big reason. But I'm not saying that's the only reason why they booed him. Oh, he's a Republican, he voted for Trump, whatever. It's the fact that, first of all, a lot of people do not like Trump. Obviously very polarized, and we're not going to get into politics here, but there's a lot of reasons for that are justified. And he's out there waving the banner for Trump, and he has been for the last year or two now. So when people see Hogan, they think of that because he's all over the fucking news for that nonsense. So I get it. So that's one reason. But the bigger reason is because they booed him years ago at WrestleMania 37. I said this last week. They booed him at WrestleMania 37 in his home state of Tampa, hometown of Tampa, home state of Florida, whatever. They booed him. We were there for it. People knew even then he was a phony. He doesn't do anything to make this shit better. It's not like the shit that he said, the disgusting comments that he made, among other stuff that I haven't even really discussed. Like the stuff about his son's friend and being reincarnated. Just look it up. It's fucking this deplorable stuff. He hasn't even apologized for it. The only thing that's really come close to an apology was when he came back in 2018 to the company and he told the talent backstage, hey, don't get caught. That's what he said. He said, don't get caught. Wasn't really the fact, and Titus O'Neil thankfully was bothered enough to say something, and either at that moment or after the fact in interviews, he was not fucking happy. And then what do? They put him out there, they put Titus out there with Hogan as the host of WrestleMania 37. That's fucking ridiculous. That was embarrassing. So, I mean, it's the fact that he's a racist. He continues to say dumb shit. As part of the Trump campaign, it's not just the fact, oh, he's a Republican. Fucking Undertaker. The Undertaker is one of the biggest Republicans on the roster. Your favorite wrestler on the show is probably voted for Trump. I'm sure there's a lot of people on that current WWE roster, AEW roster, wrestling in general, that are Republicans. It's not even that necessarily. Trump was on the fucking Undertaker's podcast last year. He got a massive reaction when he came out. But with Hogan specifically, first of all, he's from an older generation. This is not the first reason, by the way. This is like reason 77. But it's worth mentioning. He's from an era that they're just not around really anymore. Like, they're from the 80s. At this point, our generation, people watching the show, they don't give a fuck about people like Hogan. They don't. I grew up a big Hogan fan. I love the theme song. It's cool when it comes out. But I don't blame people for booing him. I get it. He's just not a good person. He's also out there for, he never really does anything meaningful. The guy can barely walk. He's involved in just pointless shit. He seems like a piece of shit human being. He doesn't do himself any favors. It's not as if he made a mistake years ago, and it was a pretty bad mistake, let's be honest. And then he moved on from it or apologized or even never acknowledged it again or whatever. He continues to say bad stuff. I mean, that's why he got booed. There's a whole litany of reasons. Most WWE fans at this point in time don't give a fuck about Hogan in 2025. They just don't, which is sad. But at the same time, it's also like, well, like for him specifically, it's not like he came out to crickets. It's just that people booed him for all the reasons I just mentioned, but he's just not a good person. It's unfortunate because you grow up with these people, and we probably would not be watching wrestling if it wasn't for him. Like, I know that's the excuse, and I'm not like defending him, but like he was a big part of WWE. He was a pioneer. He was their John Cena for X amount of years, and that's awesome. But for as much as we can recognize that, we also have to recognize he's just an awful fucking person. I'm sure there's a lot of people, past and present, maybe not, hopefully not present, a lot of people in the past that also said dumb shit, that were also racist, among other things. But we still cheer for them a little bit more than we do Hogan, because at least they, hopefully, do not continue to do and say dumb shit. Ric Flair's another one where it's not as bad as Hogan, but he also continues to do and say dumb shit and not really be held accountable for his actions. He never shows any ounce of accountability whatsoever. It's fucking gross. And that's why he got booed. Your last question here, I'll check out the chat in a second. I have noticed by some of the IWC that the 3-hour format for both shows are either tough to get through or they start off strong and then they die a death by the second hour. What are your thoughts in the 3 hours for both? Why do you think they are doing the 3-hour formats for both? And do you think it won't be long before the fans grow tired of the gimmick and demand 2 hours again? It's funny you say that. You sent that in before Raw. It's already outdated because Raw was 2.5 hours last night. It was not a 3-hour show. It was a 2.5 hour show last night. And it was amazing. It was a very short show. Not short show. Because Raw was 2 hours on USA before that for a couple of months. But the 2.5 hours was the sweet spot. Perfect run time. They got everything in that they needed to, and it went well. And I enjoyed the show for what it was, and I hope they can get back to that at some point. They can keep doing 2.5 hours or kind of teeter along that line in the weeks to come and stuff like that. I just feel like it was the perfect runtime. For SmackDown, I think it's because SmackDown's a 3-hour show. They want to test it out. I said this last week. USA Network is to blame. Raw went 3 hours because of USA Network. NXT went to 2 hours because of USA Network. SmackDown was never 3 hours. Now that they're back on USA, it's a 3-hour show. Triple H said it's only a temporary thing, but why the fuck do it in the first place? It's an experiment to see if it works. Hopefully it fails miserably, so they go back to 2 hours permanently. Hopefully he can tell them, hey guys, this doesn't work, brother. Let's go back to 2 hours. Quantity over quality for them is that was the case for a very long time. Hopefully they can, hopefully they can get back to quality over quantity and not do many as his hours of programming. Not every pay-per-view has to be 4 or 5 hours. AEW needs to learn that lesson. WWE's pay-per-views are shorter, but they go more for the presentation and shit like that, which is why, there's a lot of like presentation, a lot more entrances, and that's kind of ridiculous. They need to have more in-ring action in their pay-per-views. That's just inexcusable. But I enjoy the shows for what they are, so I can't really complain too much. All right, so before we move on to the final few questions here, because I do got to get going very soon. Let's see what the... God damn, let's check out the chat here. Let's see if there's any questions, any comments I can read aloud here. Click the bell. Millennial Noob said on last week's episode of NWA Power, everyone learned that Ella Envy is just leaving the NWA. Do you think other talent there, like Kenzie Page, Natalia Markova, or Tiffany Nieves, leave NWA in the future? I don't know what sort of deal like a lot of those women have. I think Kenzie Page just resigned, so I don't think she's going anywhere. Natalia Markova, she's resigned like a couple different times. I don't know why. I don't know what. She's gotten a million title shots, has not won a single fucking one of them. I don't know why she's still there. I feel like she has a brighter future outside of the NWA. I feel like they will leave at some point, but maybe not necessarily right now. Richie said hit that bell icon. Exactly. Richie said, no, you're locked in for the rest of my work shift. Keep looking. No, I'm not going to keep looking. I'm going to keep getting distracted. Kane in Pain said, do you think Vince himself would want to return once in a while on Raw, especially in unexpected moments? No. Would he want to return? Yeah, of course he would want to return. Will they allow him to return? Absolutely not. They absolutely would not want to return. They would not want him to return. Vince is never coming back. The WWE television, no chance in hell Vince comes back. You can quote me on that one. Let's see. Thank you for the super chat, Alexis. Couple different times with the pictures and the fucking emojis, whatever you're saying. Ahmed said Rock's ego needs to be studied. I agree. I like Rock. He seems like a genuinely good dude, but he went to NXT last week and never had any semblance of any idea of what he was going to say for his promo. He thought, okay, I'm The Rock. I could say whatever I want. And then he just said nothing. It was just a waste of time. Yeah, exactly, Nick. Thank you. Nick said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, click on that bell. They got the gist, all right? Does this make up for me not being here? LMAO. Yes, that's fine. Super chats are fine. Thank you for sending those. Richie says, Hogan has lived long enough to see himself become the villain. Yes, exactly. Because we all know who Taker endorsed, but he got a huge pop. The crowd is tired of his lies, his past politicking, and his racist shit. Thank you, Richie. That is perfectly well put. King Matthew III said, I feel like if they want Dom generating more heat, they should have him eliminate Cena from the Rumble. Yeah, I could see that. Would it lead to a match? Dom and Cena at the Elimination Chamber would be fun. I don't mind that idea. I don't want Cena wrestling for a world championship at Mania. I just don't. I feel like you could save that for later on in the year. If he faces someone for a world title at Mania, he should lose. I've said that. So, Dom eliminating Cena. Listen, he eliminated Braun Breaker last year. Dom did. He was supposed to eliminate Brock Lesnar reportedly. I don't fucking believe that. I mean, maybe, but that would have been fucking ridiculous. Richie also said Hogan is to pro wrestling what Steven Seagal is to whatever profession he's in. Both are massive. I like Seagal's movies. I know what you're saying. That both are massive phonies. The issue with Hogan is he refuses to learn from his mistakes, and be a better human. I'm talking about Dom eliminating Cena from the Rumble. Richie said, I think SmackDown being a 3-hour thing might be a network request. It definitely is, I feel like. Perhaps since USA no longer has Raw or NXT, they want a longer show to make up for the loss. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, Richie said, yep, definitely a USA thing. I could totally see that. Alexa said, did you tell them about the Penta thing? I'll tell the story real quick. Alexis's question was, did I tell you guys about the Penta thing? Well, here's the Penta thing that she's referring to. Penta's obviously been confirmed. I'll make this quick. Penta was confirmed to come into the company about a month ago. He signed to WWE over a month ago. They started airing the vignettes well before Christmas. When honestly, my first thought was when we first saw the first Zero vignette, I thought it was for the Wyatt Six. 20 minutes go by, and before I even saw anything on Twitter, I go, holy fuck, I think it's for Pentagon Jr., like Cero Miedo. And then everyone else said the same thing, and then it was reported that he officially signed. I did not say out loud when we were watching the show together that I thought it was for Pentagon. I am a surprise guy. So if I can keep it a surprise, I will try to keep it a surprise. So what I did was, I said nothing. The reports were out there that Pentagon had signed to WWE. She sees some stuff online, and her brother sometimes will tell her shit, and I'll tell him not to. And he did make some comments that like, oh yeah, Pentagon signed. I said, no, he didn't. He's actually staying in AEW. It's all a work, blah, blah, blah. Ray Phoenix is still there. There is some truth to that situation. So it was it kind of worked to my advantage that there was some truth to what I said. The Pentagon Jr. thing was not a work, obviously, but I said it was a work so she wouldn't think that Pentagon was coming to the company. I wanted it to be a surprise when he debuted, but they dragged on for so fucking long that I thought the longer this goes on for until he arrives, she's going to find out at some point. And she actually never did. So even when they showed the vignette for on Raw on Netflix last week in the mouth like vignette thing and it said Penta in it, she either was not paying complete. She saw it, but she didn't see the Penta thing. She didn't see that it said Penta, and she thought the Zero thing. I kept telling her it was for Alexa Bliss or something like the Zero member, the Zero whatever member of the Y. This is just completely ridiculous. But I had to keep it a surprise just because it's someone that she knows and likes, so it would be a bigger moment when she saw that Pentagon Jr. was coming to WWE, and she actually saw it for herself. So again, her brother was like, "Oh yeah, I think it's for Pentagon." I said, "No, he's staying in AEW. He started a stable in AEW recently with Wardlow. She doesn't watch AEW, so I knew I could get away with it because she doesn't actually watch the fucking show." So I said, "No, Wardlow and the Lucha Bros are a stable right now on the show. They just came back, so he's not coming to WWE." I think actually I saw reports it might be Roosh because Chad Gable said I thought Penta was supposed to be on the show last week, and then he wasn't, and then I'm like, fuck, I got to keep this going for another week. So then I showed her a report from like a year ago that WWE had interest in Roosh. That was a real report, but it was from like last year. And she didn't know it was from last year. And because Chad Gable said, oh, I'm going to face a luchador on Raw this Monday. So I said, oh, it's got to be Roosh. Roosh is coming in. Like you see all these reports about AEW people, which she didn't really follow too closely, thankfully. But she believed the Roosh thing. At the very least, if it wasn't Roosh, it'd probably be Dragon Lee or something. And even with the WWE shop spoiler they put up yesterday, she thankfully did not see that. I told her, do not go on social media. Do not look at that. Thankfully, she didn't, and it was a surprise when he came out. So she thought he was in AEW. When he came out last night, she was shocked. And it was a good reaction because I kept it a surprise for a month. Why would I go through that many hoops? Why would I go through that many hoops to keep it a surprise? I'm just a fucking weirdo, but that was the lengths that I went to keep the Penta arrival a surprise. I go to great lengths to keep stuff a surprise when I try not to. Not when I try not to, when I don't need to. But it maximizes the pop, so to speak. Yes, I gaslit her, and it worked. Hopefully, I gaslit for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons. But I did indeed gaslight her to thinking that Penta was not coming. And then when he did, she was in disbelief. Because that's what it's all about. The thing is, we can't stay away from spoilers because we're chronically on the internet. I have to be, obviously, for a lot of reasons. But people like her, she doesn't have to be on the internet. She doesn't have to see the reports. So if you don't have to see the reports, why not keep it a surprise? There's a lot of potential surprises. Do not spoil things for people that don't have to be spoiled. Because I feel like those genuine reactions, I would love to not be spoiled. If I didn't see that Penta shit, I would have been like, this is fucking, I mean, it was fucking awesome. But I would have loved to have not known about it. Everything gets spoiled now. But for people that don't have to be spoiled, don't ruin it for them. Let them enjoy it and experience it as any casual fan should. Just my opinion. Honestly, but if she actually paid attention, she would have known that Penta was coming weeks ago. It literally said Penta on the show last week, but thankfully she was on TikTok or on fucking Roblox or something, so she didn't completely see it. And she didn't know that it said Penta. I'm like, how the fuck did you miss that? But that actually worked to my advantage. Anyway, Ahmed said, well, Graham, if you watched this past Friday, it definitely did not work because they got a very thin roster. The 3 hours did not work for SmackDown. That was ridiculous. I'll get to the other comments in a second. Millennial Noob said, if Charlotte Flair is coming back as the Dark Queen character, do you think that Asuka might come back as the direct opposite character that represents light? That would be a good fit for her. Or that represents, I don't know what you said exactly, but I don't care what Asuka comes back as. But I just want Asuka back at this point. As long as she's not doing the goofy like dancing shit that she was doing a few years ago, that shit was just dumb. As long as she's not doing that, I just want her back. King Matthew III said, do you see Dom betraying Balor soon because he wasn't out there with GD and Carlito during the Priest match? Yeah, I think he's with Liv and Raquel. I don't know if he's going to betray them, but I think they might go off on their own. I think it's going to be Dom, Raquel, and Liv, and the rest of the Judgment Day should just disperse. At this point, it just serves no purpose. Richie said, what popped me was WWE releasing the Penta merch yesterday in the early afternoon because at that point the cat was out of the bag. And like Michael Cole said, the worst kept secret in the business. The funny thing was I was waiting all week and I'm like, can we just get Monday over with so nothing accidentally leaks and she sees it online by accident? And then they put up the fucking merchandise, which was cool. But I'm like, bro, like I've gone through the lengths of keeping this a surprise for a month. For a month. And then for it to just be ruined by the merchandise being released earlier in the day, which was just stupid. I mean, it was cool because it built excitement, but I don't want a reaction to be when she finds out through a fucking merchandise page. And honestly, if she saw that and told me about it, I would have said it was fake. I would have continued to gaslight the situation because I would have said, wait, like I wouldn't have said wait until Raw, but I would have just been like, that's not real. There's a lot of, the best part about the internet nowadays, and I said this to her yesterday, there's a lot of, as Trump would say, fake news, specifically in wrestling. A lot of fake reports. People don't never consider the source. They never consider, and there's a lot of fake stuff going around currently in wrestling and not just in general. But when there's actually some real stuff, you'll think that's fake. So then when it actually ends up being real, it ends up being a bigger surprise. So that also worked to my advantage. Richie said, keeping kayfabe alive in 2025. Goddamn right, Richie, I did. Ahmed said, why did you say Roosh was coming to be the fake surprise? Because, well, first of all, she told me yesterday that she forgot about this. But when we were watching Raw last week, Chad's like, oh, I challenge any luchador on the roster to face me on Raw next week. And I said, then it's going to give it away that it's Penta because she didn't think it was Penta in that moment, but like a couple of weeks earlier, she heard, like, I don't know, from her brother or saw something saying, oh, people are talking about it being Penta. I'm like, that's ridiculous. He's still in AEW. So then when she hears the luchador thing, she might be thinking, maybe it actually could be Penta. And then I said, oh, maybe it's Dragon Lee because he's coming back from injury. Spoiler alert, Dragon Lee was never actually off the show. She just doesn't pay enough attention to the show to not know that he was off the show. So that actually worked to my advantage too. And then to kind of further throw her off the trace, because why else would they have Chad Gable face a mystery opponent? That tells you it's going to be a big deal. She said she forgot about it, but she did pay attention to that moment. She forgot about it, but she did watch it when we were watching it last week, because we watched the show live in the last couple of weeks. So to further, just in case, this is completely stupid that I'm saying this, but to completely throw her off the scent, I said, there is an AEW wrestler coming in. And she goes, oh, is it one of the Lucha Bros? Is it someone I like? I said, no, they're in a group. They're not coming in. It's actually, and it's Roosh. Because, I mean, she knows Roosh. So it's a cool deal, but it's not like her favorite wrestler. Because if it was like her favorite wrestler, they should be like, why would you just not keep that a surprise? You know? So I said it was Roosh. So if she remembered that, oh yeah, Gable's facing a luchador, it's probably the debuting Roosh. I was thinking, what other luchadors are there in AEW? What is it going to be, fucking Hologram? She doesn't even know who that is. Commander, she has no idea who that is. Roosh at least is a big enough deal that she would recognize who that is. Got a method to my madness. Richie said, dang, honestly, the lengths that you went through for that should be applauded. Listen, I do a lot of that. You would be surprised. Some of it doesn't work, because some shit just is beyond my control as far as what she, is spoiled by, whether it's movies, wrestling. Because I am always spoiled. That's the problem. And it's not because I seek out spoilers. I just see shit. I'm chronically online. I kind of have to be. It is what it is. But that's just whatever. It's tough. But I'm glad I got that one. I'm glad I got that W. And there's other surprises, wrestling related that we can hopefully keep under wraps, but sometimes it's just impossible. If one person says something, the whole thing is ruined. Thankfully, no one said anything. It was kind of teased, but she didn't really think about it. She thought it was fake because I told her they were staying. I told her the Lucha Bros were staying. I told her he was still under contract. How the fuck could he be there? That makes no sense. She's not going to watch AEW, so she has no idea that he's not there. So it kind of worked out well. DTI for life. Oh, God, get out of here. Lindsay is in the chat as well. She said, oh, my God. This is ridiculous. What is going on? That merch is AI? Who said that? Did someone say that in the chat? I don't know. The Penta merch was sick. Did I say AI? There's a Penta AI theme song that came out that someone put together, and it's actually fucking awesome. Check it out when you're done here. There's a Penta AI theme song that they did that someone made, and it sounds sick, actually. Ahmed said, Grim, they probably released the merch early because they already announced the name on last week's show. They did, but they didn't say who Chad Gable was facing, though. They put out the merch, but they were still saying up until Raw started, oh, who's Chad Gable facing? At that point, I'm glad they didn't announce it, but it's like, okay, just wait until after he debuts to fucking put out the merch. The merch post was the stupidest shit I've ever seen. I mean, honestly, to be honest, like, everyone kind of knew he was coming in anyway because they put the name up on the screen last week. They did. So, Nick also said, oh, wait, what does Penta's thing mean, Graham? Cero miedo, zero fear. He's a star. If you don't know who Penta is, guys, go back and check out Penta from Lucha, AEW, TNA Impact. Lucha Underground is one of the best promotions I've ever watched, though. That's well worth a watch in its own right. Could have said it was Kalisto. I could have said it was Kalisto. I forgot about Kalisto, so I could have. Merch is clean. I meant them posting it before the show. Sorry. No, I love the merch. Yeah, I gotta buy myself a shirt. I need that white shirt. I definitely need to buy that. I need me a Penta mask in my office. Me too. Imagine me coming on the stream with a fucking Penta mask on. I didn't know Dragon Lee wasn't her. No, he's not her. Dragon Lee's not her. This is what I'm saying. She doesn't watch the show. She doesn't watch the show, so she doesn't know he's not her. He's fine. He's just not really on the show, but he's not her. Oh my God. Sin Cara, she wouldn't give a fuck. She'd be like, why would I give a fuck about Sin Cara coming in? You know what I mean? I'm glad Lindsay likes Penta, though. He's amazing. Yes, there's a wrestler named Hologram, and it's the guy's good, but the name is just whatever. It's Tony Khan's favorite wrestler, actually. AI could have been your next excuse. Oh. Okay, I know what you're saying. I could have said the merch was AI. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I should have said that. Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah, I mean, cero miedo. His daughters were crying. Yeah, that was cool. I'd buy you a Penta mask. to see that, bro. Not me thinking he's not hurt. Dragon Lee's not hurt. I just said that to get her off the scent. He's just in catering. Exactly. They're just not using him. It's fucking dumb. Let's wrap up here so I can this has been going on for a very long time. Alexis threw me off guard with the stupid Penta thing. But he did have a great debut there. That was amazing. Speaking of which, actually timely question here. At We Gaza in 1996, they asked, with the Royal Rumble being so close, why not say Penta's debut as a surprise appearance? I get that it had been reported that they signed him, but they also showed Jade Cargill before last year's Rumble. That's because they signed Jade. She left AEW and they signed her days later. They were not going to keep that a surprise for 4 months. People would have known fucking a week. Like, the moment that she signed, it was going to get reported. WWE wanted the media publicity around Jade. So they, announced it. They didn't say that she'd be in the Rumble. She just wasn't on the show for a couple months. So they put her on Raw and on SmackDown and on NXT for a couple of weeks. She disappeared. So it would be a surprise when she was in the Rumble. I mean, a lot of people expected her, but if it was out of sight, out of mind, which is how a lot of people work, unless you're like us and you actually really, really pay attention, most people probably forgot about Jade until she was in the Rumble. Penta, honestly, I think the debut he had last night was amazing. If he was in the Rumble, he would have been just another guy. He could have had a really good showing, but last night he got the fucking entrance. He got the cool, the lights going out, the awesome match with Chad Gable, the great post-match promo. That's not to say Royal Rumble debuts can't work. It worked for AJ Styles, and his was amazing, one of the best of all time, but for in 2016. But the one with Penta, I think he's a special case. Like, they were in San Jose. Indianapolis, I don't know if they would have given a fuck, to be completely honest. Indianapolis getting the Rumble, to me, is disappointing. I don't know how good of a crowd that's going to be. I don't know how many people, coming from all over or coming up from all over to watch the Royal Rumble. I hope so. But I think he got a better reaction last night than he would have at the Rumble, to be totally honest. And maybe there's other surprises for the Rumble. Who knows? Hopefully he's in the Rumble. And I thought his introduction was perfect. The post-match promo meant a lot. The daughters got to be there. The family got to be there. She was crying. It really added a lot to the moment. I thought it was very, very well done. Ahmed said, did you see Corey's tweet? I did. I think it's a work. If it's not a work, I don't know what the fuck's going on. But he said, oh yeah, like he acted all frustrated over being booted from commentary and being, relegated to NXT. And then he said, watch NXT tonight. Is he getting back in the ring? I don't know. If this leads to a Corey Graves Pat McAfee match, I'm all for it. But if it's not, very weird thing for him to tweet. So I guess we'll find out. Yes, Richie, I gaslit him. I'm gaslighting Alexis and Richie now, I guess. The party started. All your besties are here. Yes. I'm going to need Becky to come back soon, ASAP. I agree, Lindsay. I hope she is back soon. I think she will be back soon. I was surprised she was not there last week. But, hey, there's someone right there. I think she could be back in the Rumble. Maybe eliminates Lyra Valkyria, and there's your women intercontinental title match for Mania. I'd rather see Becky and Rhea, I'd rather see Becky and Lyra over Becky and Rhea again, which was great. I think Becky and Lyra's feels fresher. We've gotten it before, but that was in NXT. There's a lot of history there, so. Yeah, one more hour. We're going to have this stream go as long as Raw. Richie said, wasn't Corey cleared like 65 years ago, and they're doing something with him now? I know, it's just, they really should have done shit with him a while ago, but it's just, hey, better late than never. I want to see Corey Graves back in the ring personally, so. Corey versus Pat could be fun as hell, though. I think that would work as a Mania match. The weird thing is that if they did that at Mania, it would have worked last year, because isn't he from Pittsburgh or Philly or something? He's a Pennsylvania guy. Mania was in Pennsylvania last year. So why would you do it in fucking Las Vegas? I doubt they would even put that match in the card at Mania. That could work as more of like a TV program, I think, but Pat was in the Rumble last year, so it's not like Pat's in the Rumble, then Corey Graves comes in and chucks him out. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. He said, that's the only thing getting me to watch NXT tonight is that Corey Graves tweet, and it probably won't even amount to anything. Like the Rock promo, like, oh, watch NXT for The Rock, and then he just says nothing. Like, what a waste of time. At Reborn Again Final, 2 questions here. He asked, so 2.5 hours for Raw this week. What do you think of the fluctuating runtime since they're on Netflix? I mentioned this a little while ago. I love it. 2.5 hours was perfect. Too long for a YouTube stream, wink, wink, but it is perfect for an episode of Raw. I feel like 2.5 hours is the sweet spot. The old takeovers used to be 2.5 hours long. I would totally be down for more 2.5 hour Raws, if not just 2 hours, and then go to closer to 3 or 2.5 if you have more shit planned. I think that's perfect. Totally perfect. 2.5 hours. You get close to 3, but not quite 3, and it's a little over 2, but not quite 2. I loved it a lot. So I think, honestly, at this point, I want SmackDown on streaming too, so that would also have the flexibility. And also, you know what it helps too with? It makes the main events less predictable. Because when it's 10:59 on a 3-hour show and the match isn't over yet, you probably know it's going to end in the next 30 seconds. Whereas with streaming, and if it can end any time, the match can go short, it could go long, you don't know who's going to win. So I think it makes shit more unpredictable too. It's very lax. I like that a lot. So hopefully that sticks. Hopefully SmackDown can do the same thing, but they're not going to be on streaming for a while. They signed like a 5-year deal with USA, so they're not going anywhere for a long time. But I wouldn't be opposed to SmackDown either joining Netflix too or a different streaming service if it worked as well as Netflix has so far. Let's see. Ahmed said on screen, Corey seems jealous of Pat. It could be a fun story to tell. Yeah, I mean they've had back and forth beef on the show for the last couple of years, which I think is all in character. I don't think it's real. I think there's a story to tell there for sure. Richie said, wasn't Corey billed from Vegas during his NXT stint? Oh, maybe. He said, oh, never mind. It was the Sunset Strip, which is in Cali. I mean, it's closer than Philly. So, hey, they're not in Cali, obviously, for Mania, but Vegas is close enough. So, perhaps. I don't know if they would waste a spot at Mania on Pat McAfee versus Corey Graves and Triple H's WWE, but, wouldn't be something I'd be opposed to. Let's put it that way. Last question. We'll end with a movie question here from Matt Reborn again. Non-wrestling related as 2025 gets rolling, do you think the new Captain America film will be as successful as some recent Marvel entries, or will it flop because of the lack of Chris Evans? Side note, I'm already up to 6 movies for 2025, he says. Will it be as successful as some other recent Marvel entries? Yes and no. Honestly, I would be stunned if Brave New World did not do as well or did as well as Miss Marvel or The Marvels. The Marvels was not that good. It was a pretty mediocre movie. Barely made any money as far as Marvel movies go. If Brave New World does in that ballpark, then we're fucking doomed. No pun intended. With the Doomsday shit, that would be awful. I think Brave New World will be successful. Will it be as successful? Because you said, oh, Chris Evans isn't in it, so will it not be successful? I mean, first of all, you got the fucking, you got Harrison Ford in there. Obviously, Anthony Mackie is not, Chris Evans. And I don't know how many people watch the Disney Plus show. I think it will be successful. We haven't had a Marvel movie since Deadpool and Wolverine. That movie cleared well north of $1 billion. This is not making $1 billion. It's actually competing directly with Paddington 3, and that's going to make a lot of money too. Let's not kid ourselves here. But I mean, what other movies have we gotten? The Marvels. It will do better than that. It will not do as well as Deadpool and Wolverine. What else did we get? What were the other Marvel movies that we got in the last couple of years? Like Shang-Chi, I think it will do better than that because it's an established IP with it being Captain America. It definitely fucking better do better than the Eternals. Tell them your thoughts on Wicked. Thank you for the super chat, Alexis. I'll get to in a second. I'm trying to. What other Marvel movies came out though? It will do better than Black Widow. No Way Home, and obviously won't do as well as that. Multiverse of Madness. I think honestly, I think a good comparison money wise is Multiverse of Madness. I think it will probably do in the same ballpark as that movie. I don't know how well that movie did, but I could see it be doing as well as that. I'll get to Alexis's question in a second. Richie asked the Marvel. Hey, listen, Paddington is great, dude. If you haven't seen the Paddington movies, Paddington 1 and 2 is great content. Alexis has not seen. There's a lot of shit she has not seen, so we're still in the process of fixing that. But I did her a favor and I watched Wicked, which I'll get to in a second, and I'll give you my honest thoughts on it. But yeah, the Paddington movies are very fun. I enjoyed those movies, and I mean, at least the first one. I haven't seen the second one. I have to watch the second one, but the third one's coming soon. I'll have to check it out. Richie's Marvel question rather. He said Marvel needs to cut the shit and go back to the King ideas. Bring Jonathan Majors back. I understand it was a PR thing to be safe, but they nuked his contract far too quickly. I think that's over. I think that ship sailed. I mean, I can't speak to whether he's guilty or not. I really don't know about any of that. I think there was some proof that he wasn't guilty. I agree to a certain extent that they did it way too quickly, but they might know more than we do, first of all. And second of all, I think it's a case of they've already moved on. They appointed Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. They're not going to go backward with the Kang stuff. I would like to see them finish the story with Kang, as they've been building it up for a while since the first Loki season, to just move on from it and say, oh yeah, no, he's dead now. He's not a problem. We'll just write him off. That is annoying to me as a wrestling fan. Situation being what it is, I get it. I think the cat's out of the bag with that one. I think they have to move on. They already announced the Doctor Doom thing, so it's not like they waited 6 months and then it's like, oh yeah, actually, he's cleared. Let's bring him back. There's also just too much bad publicity around him. I don't think the narrative has changed, even if he is innocent. I hate to say it, but like even with people, which is usually the minority, that get accused of that sort of stuff and they end up being clear, the damage has been done. I mean, blame that on whoever, but the damage has been done. And I think people just do not want to see him in that role. For some people, they didn't even give a fuck about the King stuff anyway. On the topic of movies, do you think Cena will return for the Marine 3? They already did a Marine 3, brother. The Miz did it. The Marine 3, they literally have made the Marine 3, 4, and 5 with the Miz. Cena's doing other stuff now. Richie also said y'all need to come up. I need to come over and we need to hit up Elm Street Diner and watch Marvel stuff. Hey, listen, Richie, you're speaking our language. We will definitely arrange something in the not too distant future as far as that goes. That'd be great. The Elm Street Diner, we talked about that years ago. We need to finish that story. It's still an unchecked box in my mind. We will definitely need to do that. He also said RDJ being used as nostalgia bait just taints the legacy he created for Iron Man. It's some Vince McMahon style booking shit, lol. I'm not a fan of it either. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool. Would I have done that? No, but I'm also not Kevin Feige, so I think it could work out. It feels desperate to me. It feels very desperate to me to go backward and bring him back when he had the perfect send off. I know it's not him. I know it's he's supposed to be fucking Doom or whatever Doom's actual name is. He's not actually Tony Stark. Maybe he's Tony Stark as Doom or he's Doctor Doom. I have no idea. But I still think they should have left that in the past and just moved on. Keep Chris Evans in the past. The cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine was great. The Iron Man cameo or the having an Iron Man cameo maybe, but like building an entire movie around him, even as a heel, it's something different. I know it's comic book level shit. I just don't like it. I think it's fucking lazy. That's just me. He said, but you're right. Perhaps it can be revisited in the future. RDJ can get casted in a major role. Post his personal issues. Maybe Majors can go another round, but I digress. Elm Street Diner, I agree. We can talk all about this all over dinner, lunch, whatever, pancakes at the Elm Street Diner, so definitely. You know what RGA coming back sounds like? Something The Rock. Yes. Listen, that does sound like something The Rock would take credit for. You know, that's Nick. That is so dumb because we know it was said. That joke was made at the time, but it's been so long since I've seen it that it's fucking funny again. So it's a good comment. That was a good chat. And then Richie said, "We listen to the crowd." I could just see The Rock with his fucking glasses. I don't have glasses. These glasses. Hold on. I got glasses here. They're not Rock glasses, but I have my Star Wars bounty hunter glasses. I can pull a Rock here because he's always wearing fucking glasses in those documentaries. I try to do my best Rock impression here. Where's your comment? We listened to the crowd, so we pivoted. Bring back RDJ. That's what The Rock says. Dwayne Johnson. I said, I was the problem for the pivot, so let's take credit for the pivot. And I'm actually the genius here. Yes, the glasses. So good, Nick. Yeah, exactly. They pivoted. As far as Wicked goes, I'll end on this. We've been here for way too long. I appreciate you guys chatting in. This is so dumb. I gotta go, dude. As far as the Wicked movie goes, it was good. I enjoyed it. Alexis, we finally watched it. Alexis said, take the glasses off and say 1, 2, 3. You have to see Craven to have understood that reference. But Wicked was good. We enjoyed it. Liked the music. Not my type of movie. It's not Greatest Showman. I know, Nick, you don't like that movie. Well, guess what? It's great. It's great. You're just gonna have to learn to accept it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to accept it. You have to respect. Well, that's not the expression. It's something like that. But you're gonna have to accept it. That it's a great movie. But anyway, Wicked was very good. I thought the acting was really good, and we will watch part 2. So I enjoyed it for what it was. It wasn't good. It was life changing. It was very good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think on Letterboxd. I was gonna give it 4 stars, but then I ended up bumping it up to 4.5 in the latter stretch because I thought it picked up and it was a long movie. It didn't feel that long, so on sub. Nick is wrong. I love that movie. You loved it is what you meant. Hey, listen, it was very good. And then Richie also said, one more hour. Oh, I don't know. Well, listen, we got plenty of time to go live in these other days of the week. It's not La La Land. I liked Alexis loves La La Land. We watched the La La Land a little while ago, like a couple of years ago. That was good too. I think I like Wicked more though. That's more of my speed than La La Land, and Greatest Showman is more of my speed than Wicked. But on crazy. I enjoyed Greatest Showman a lot more than I thought I would. That is probably, I'm not even kidding you, top 5 movie for me of all time. Not best. No, do not turn off the notifications. That's one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Listen, guys, send in more questions for next week. I can't promise you we'll go almost 2 hours next time. This is one of the longest hashtags we've ever done. This has been a lot of fun, though. More live streams. Stay tuned. I can't keep reading the chat. I'm going to be here all day. My wife hates La La Land, and it hurts me. I mean, I don't hate the movie. I like it. That is a red flag, though, Richie. Listen, we love your wife, but we got to discuss this over Elm Street Diner. And Lindsay said, I'm so glad you saw it. Yeah, I mean, I gotta go, okay? I gotta leave. Ahmed said, so is he gonna go do another pivot of fucking up his final boss character? Yeah, it seems like it. We're so off the deep end here. I have to end the stream. I gotta go here. We've been here for 2 hours. I thought I'd be gone an hour ago. I have to go. Then Alexis is going to go, oh, why are you up until 4 a.m.? Because of this. You guys are keeping me here. I got to go. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. One more hour. Yeah, you did extend this. You guys did extend this, and not in a bad way, but I got to go. If you want to send in a question, guys, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant, the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, Facebook.com. We got to get out of here. I got to put on my rock glasses for this. I got to stop looking at the chat. That's the problem. All right. Make sure you tweet in your questions at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Graham the GSM Dow Matthews. YouTube as well. The Rock says, drop a comment in the comment section down below. We'll include your question in next week's edition. There's usually a post I'll put up on Tuesday nights, or rather on Monday nights on Facebook, so find that. Drop a comment. What am I even saying at this point? I don't know. Like the video, subscribe, more live streams on Tuesdays and on Thursdays and on Saturdays, talking SmackDown, WrestleRant Radio, and answering your questions. Read my comment. What is your, I can't imagine what your comment is, Nick. You guys broke me. I heard that people hated the final boss, so we pivoted. That's what The Rock says. That's what Dwayne Johnson says. We listened to the crowd, so we pivoted. Ruined the final boss. That is what Dwayne The Rock Johnson says. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week. We'll wind down now with some outro shit if this works. Until next time, guys, I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll catch your ass down the road.